The wealthy matriarch never expected this. The dirt-poor brat, Yi, whom she had carefully arranged to be her future son-in-law, changed his mind the absolute second he laid eyes on her. He completely ignored her young, drop-dead, gorgeous daughter, instead showering his attention on her, the still charming, mature lady. Facing her supposed future son-in-law's scorching gaze, she coolly stated, "As long as you can survive the family's forbidden grounds and retrieve that martial arts manual inside, I will give you a chance." And all of this happened because, on the first day of the academy, he publicly crushed the campus goddess's pride. The campus goddess had awakened the stage 4 top-tier bloodline, the Nether Sparrow. He directly transformed into the king of the monsters, Godzilla. Under the watch of tens of millions of people worldwide, he pinned the campus goddess to the ground and ruthlessly pummeled her. This was a world invaded by monsters. To survive, humanity developed the monster gene system, allowing people to unlock talents and become martial warriors by injecting monster genes. In this world, everyone must undergo a gene modifier injection upon turning 18. The quality of one's talent would determine the course of their future. After the homeroom teacher finished explaining the precautions, the class was led into the gene injection hall. On the tables sat neatly arranged metal cases containing the extremely valuable Gene Awakening Serum. Inside them were the original monster genes ever recorded by human warriors. Once injected, the body would randomly absorb a monster gene. The stronger one's physique, the rarer and more powerful the awakened gene would be. Soon, the students completed their injections one after another. The next second, agonized screams erupted as waves of heat poured off their bodies. Watching this, Yi hesitated briefly, then clenched his teeth and plunged the needle into his neck. Yet 2.5 seconds passed, and his body showed no reaction at all. At that moment, Liu Ruyan, who had successfully awakened, walked over. With a mocking tone, she sneered, "Yi, looks like you're finished? Not an unawakened warrior is just a bird with broken wings. Go home and wait to die." He was about to fire back when his heart suddenly began pounding violently. At the same time, a system interface popped up in his mind, clearly displaying that he had obtained the Infinite Monster template. As the notification sounded, a mysterious deep blue glow flashed through Yi's eyes. Immediately after, an overwhelming surge of power erupted from within his body. In the next second, a roar filled with absolute authority thundered through the entire building. Every student felt the crushing suppression originating from the depths of their bloodlines. Liu Ruyan, who had been mocking moments ago, was so terrified that she foamed at the mouth and collapsed unconscious. Several seconds later, the terrifying pressure finally faded away. He gradually returned to normal. Looking at the classmates sprawled across the floor, he let out a helpless smile. Just then, a broadcast echoed through the hall, instructing all awakened students to head immediately to the testing building for monster gene classification and the 5-path rank assessment. The scene shifted to the testing building, where several high-tech cylindrical machines stood neatly in rows. Once a student stepped inside, their awakened data would be analyzed and displayed instantly. The first to step up was Chu Zhou, the top student of the grade. He had reached 5th Disciple, 9th stage, and awakened a 3rd-tier top bloodline, the Ice Demon Dragon. On the other side, Miss Liu, also at 5th Disciple, 9th stage, was no less impressive, having awakened a rare 4th-tier bloodline, the Nether Sparrow. Seeing that everyone else's monster templates were clearly labeled with 3rd and 4th-tier rankings, he fell into deep thought, unable to understand why only his display seemed to have completely frozen. Soon, it was Yi's turn to undergo bloodline identification. At that moment, the venue grew increasingly noisy as all eyes turned toward him because the pressure he had unleashed earlier was still fresh in everyone's minds. In a world where strength ruled above all else, he had earned their temporary respect. In the end, the screen displayed only a single line: Martial Trainee, 3rd stage, with every other data field filled with question marks. The crowd burst into laughter. So he's just a 3rd stage Martial Trainee trash. Figures. Still the same useless dead weight. He paid them no mind because everything was unfolding exactly as he had expected. Godzilla hadn't been detected because it was merely one of the monsters within the Infinite Monster template. That meant he could awaken monster bloodlines endlessly, while everyone else could only awaken a single one in their entire lifetime. By that logic alone, he was destined to become the monster king of this world. Soon after, Yi approached his homeroom teacher to request leave, explaining that he planned to undergo special training and return before the college entrance exam. The teacher sighed helplessly. "I know you've awakened a bloodline, and ambition is a good thing, but your foundation is far too weak. You'd be better off preparing for next year." After he persisted again and again. The teacher finally relented and approved his leave. Once he left campus, Yi headed straight for the Anqing Martial Center. He withdrew the 600,000 yuan his parents had left behind, along with over 1 million yuan in compensation from the accident years ago. Altogether, he now possessed a substantial amount of startup capital. The fastest way to grow stronger was to increase the compatibility of the Godzilla template. According to the Infinite Monster template, every template started with only 1 point of compatibility, yet Godzilla began with 3. After giving it some thought, Yi concluded that Godzilla had absorbed the effects of the Gene Awakening Serum during the awakening, granting him 2 additional compatibility points. That also meant any item related to gene technology could potentially enhance his template. Compared to grinding through training, investing money to boost template compatibility was clearly the more efficient choice for him right now. After scanning his student ID, Yi smoothly entered the Martial Center. Ever since awakening the Godzilla template, he had gained a special sensory ability. He could clearly perceive the flow of vitality within other warriors, as well as the faint traces of beast blood hidden deep in their bloodlines. The sensation made his heart pound rapidly. But it wasn't fear. It was a primal urge to dominate, rising from deep within. After all, Godzilla was the undisputed king of monsters. Unfortunately, Yi was still far too weak at the moment and needed more time to build up his strength. Only after fully developing would he reveal the true pressure of the Monster King to this world. Just then, a hand gently rested on Yi's shoulder. He looked up to see a gentle-looking older woman smiling at him. "Hey kid, you shouldn't go peeking at other people so casually." He quickly explained that he hadn't meant to pry. He simply couldn't find where to purchase gene-based enhancement drugs. "Do you know anyone who could point me in the right direction?" The sweet way he addressed her clearly put her in a good mood. She not only gave him detailed directions, but also handed him a business card with a smile. "Use this. I can help you get a discount." Filled with gratitude, Yi thanked her and followed the direction she indicated, arriving at the Martial Hospital. He spent 1.45 million to purchase 4 vials of gene enhancers and used the remaining funds to buy basic equipment and weapons. After returning home, Yi immediately began injecting the gene enhancers. As the pale blue liquid flowed into his body, his blood seemed to boil in an instant. Moments later, Godzilla's compatibility surged from 3% to 7%, while his physique jumped from 8 to 15. Pushing him straight into Martial Trainee, 7th stage. At the same time, Yi made a new discovery. As his physique grew stronger, further enhancement became increasingly difficult. Even so, the results were nothing short of astonishing. Within mere minutes, he had matched what others needed 3 full years of training to achieve. At this rate, even competing for the top spot in the college entrance exam was no longer a fantasy. Soon, the next day arrived, and Yi headed to the dimensional rift he had selected in advance. Dungeons were classified from rank S to rank S6. The higher the rank, the more powerful the monsters inside. After signing the death waiver, Yi stood before the rift, then leapt into it without the slightest hesitation. The moment he began to fall, the sheer grandeur of the dungeon unfolded before his eyes. Just as Yi was still immersed in the scenery of the dungeon, he suddenly sensed a living presence rapidly approaching from behind. Focusing his gaze, he realized it was an otherworldly monster. Without giving him any time to react, the Blade Fang rabbit lunged straight at him. But with his heightened perception, Yi had already tracked its movement. He sidestepped instantly, dodging the attack and clamping a hand around the creature's head. With a wet crack, the Blade Fang rabbit exploded in his grip. All that remained was a thumb-sized white core crystal. At this point, first-tier monster cores were practically useless to Yi. He couldn't help thinking that a second-tier monster would be far more worthwhile. Almost as if responding to his thought, a second-tier monster, the Corpse Devourer worm, burst out of the ground without warning. He let out a cold chuckle. Perfect timing. Drawing his weapon without hesitation, he took the initiative and slashed deeply into the creature's abdomen. The moment the wound opened, foul-smelling green blood sprayed outward. Sensing danger, the Corpse Devourer worm curled its body tightly, spinning like a razor-sharp blade as it tore through the air. He immediately unleashed Mountain-Blocking Fist, smashing the attack into the worm's body and forcing its spinning momentum to stall. But in the next instant, the monster snapped back, flinging 2 scythe-like fangs toward Yi at blinding speed. He barely evaded the strike and quickly widened the distance between them. He knew all too well that at his current level, he couldn't overpower this creature head-on. It was time to use a cheat. With a low shout, he activated his power. In the next instant, a layer of hardened scales spread across his arm. His blood surged like a raging tide, swelling several times over. He then charged straight into the body of the Corpse Devourer worm. Before long, the creature was ripped open from within, completely losing its ability to resist. With his overall physique skyrocketing to 21 points, suppressing a second-tier Corpse Devourer worm became nothing more than total domination. He lowered his gaze to the green glowing monster core inside the creature, and suddenly felt an intense urge to swallow it. Following the instinctive craving of his body, he didn't hesitate for even a second, and swallowed the core whole. The crystal-hard core melted into liquid the moment it entered his body, flowing through his system as if by magic. The sensation was almost identical to injecting a gene enhancer, raising his compatibility with Godzilla by another 0.3%. Considering that a 1% compatibility boost cost $100,000 on the market, while a single second-tier monster core provided 0.3%, 3 or 4 cores were practically equivalent to one enhancer. Realizing this, he couldn't help but feel that his earlier spend-heavy approach had been a massive loss. Turning frustration into motivation, he resolved to hunt relentlessly that night and gather as many high-tier monster cores as possible. He immediately expanded his life magnetic field, scanning the surroundings for nearby monsters. By the next day, He emerged from the dungeon carrying an entire sack full of monster cores. Once his compatibility reached 9%, consuming white-tier cores no longer provided any benefit, so he sold them instead. 20 white cores and 4 green cores, earning a total of 200,000 gold coins. With sufficient funds secured, he wasted no time and sought out a dungeon broker. After paying a fee, he had a false identity prepared for him. Using that cover, He successfully slipped into a team of martial warriors, preparing to explore a high-risk D-rank dungeon. D-rank dungeons were notoriously unstable, and regulations required warriors to enter strictly in 6-member teams. As why he was still a student, there was no legitimate way for him to qualify. This was the only option left. Once all preparations were complete, the 6-man team boarded an off-road vehicle and sped toward the dimensional rift. Upon entering the dungeon, a vast and endless desert stretched out before them. The team leader briefed Yi on the mission. Their objective was to locate the Blood Jade Flower, whose approximate location had already been identified, though it was guarded by a downgraded second-tier monster. Before he could finish speaking, several Earth Demon rats appeared behind the vehicle, closing in fast. At the leader's command, the team members immediately hurled several throwing darts, striking the rats cleanly through the head. Soon after, they stopped near an oasis. The Blood Jade Flower was located within it. The monsters in the oasis were extremely sensitive, and engine noise would easily draw attention. The team disembarked and switched to advancing on foot. The leader began assigning tasks in an orderly fashion, while Yi, the newcomer, was positioned on standby. Once the assignments were complete, the team moved out swiftly. With the thunderous blast of a flashbang, the ground began to tremble violently, and a massive second-tier Earth Dragon burst forth from beneath the sand. As the Earth Dragon charged wildly, the team leader seized the moment, leapt high into the air, and fired an arrow straight into its throat. But in the very next second, the creature launched a desperate counterattack. At the critical moment, he stepped in without hesitation and slammed a mountain-blocking fist into the Earth Dragon, blasting it back and saving the leader. The sight left everyone stunned. No one had expected a mere martial trainee to possess the power to shake a downgraded second-tier monster. That single strike earned Yi the team's full recognition. They finally saw him as a true companion. Shortly after, the group located their objective, the Blood Jade Flower. Just as the leader reached out to harvest it, a sharp blade was suddenly driven into his back. Reacting on instinct, the leader turned and struck out with a palm, but the attacker had already prepared to disperse the force and emerged completely unharmed. A bald man then stepped forward. He was a bandit who specialized in ambushing martial warriors, striking precisely when teams lowered their guard after securing their prize. Clutching his chest, the leader staggered in pain. Unable to understand how their mission details had been leaked, he immediately spotted the clue. The traitor had hidden the information on the throwing darts. The traitor sneered, "You're just a student. Instead of studying at school, you came all the way here to get yourself killed." With that, he flicked his wrist and hurled a dart straight at Yi. At the critical moment, Yi calmly caught the throwing dart between 2 fingers. A fence-sitter like you dares to bark in front of him? Time to take out this trash. Seeing this, the bald man grew excited and ordered the traitor to take Yi's head. The traitor obeyed, gripping a throwing dart in each finger and hurling them from vicious, unpredictable angles. He didn't even bother to defend. His unleashed pressure knocked every dart out of the air. Refusing to give up, the traitor slipped behind Yi for a sneak attack, only to be pierced clean through by a single energy beam. The traitor's mangled body crashed to the ground. The bald man gasped, instantly recognizing it as a gene rat, and demanded to know which great family Yi belonged to. He sneered, saying he was from the Godzilla family, and asked if the man wanted to kneel and beg. The bald man hesitated no longer. His blood aura exploded outward, and in the blink of an eye, he transformed into a terrifying small giant. He then charged at Yi like a mad beast. He merely crouched and sidestepped, firing a precise strike at the weakest point, his ankle. The bald man spread his arms to crush him, but he slipped away once again. The repeated failures drove the bald man into total frenzy. He leapt forward, intent on smashing Yi to death, but at that moment, Yi was already behind him. He unleashed mountain-blocking fist, raining down punch after punch in a relentless barrage. Moments later, The bald man collapsed to the ground in agony. With his final breath, he cursed that an evil martial warrior like Yi, he would surely be judged one day. Yi, he couldn't be bothered to figure out what the guy was yapping about. He charged up a punch and sent him straight to his grave. Soon, the day of the National College entrance exam arrived. Before countless spectators, the host began explaining the rules to all candidates. This exam used an arena-based format. Winners advanced to the next round, and only those who advanced could compete in the finals on the third day. In the preliminary stage, each candidate had to fight 3 matches. The advancement stage required continuous victories until the top scorer of this year's exam was decided. With the official announcement of the Anqing exam start, candidates stepped onto their respective arenas. The competitors on arena number 6 were Yi, He, and Huang Tongtong. However, Yi, he had yet to arrive. According to the rules, failure to appear within the time limit would be treated as a forfeit. Standing on the platform with a smug expression, Huang Tongtong mocked him. After being embarrassed at the last Gene assembly, she had planned to teach him a lesson with her fire lizard, only for that trash to get scared and not show up. The crowd joined in, some sneering that he was probably hiding at home, trembling in fear, and that cowards like him should just be sent to sweep the streets. Just as the referee was about to declare Yi, he forfeited Yi. He arrived in time, crashing down from above onto the arena. The impact sent a shockwave through the platform, making the entire arena tremble. Before Huang Tongtong could even react, she was kicked away by Yi He, losing consciousness once again on the spot. Yi He thought to himself how close that was. Good thing he made it in time to show his gratitude. Captain Lin gave him a blood jade fruit, which was why Yi He had spent some time absorbing it earlier. At this moment, Yi He's physique stat had reached 226. After easily defeating Huang Tong, he went on to win 2 more matches in a row, achieving 3 straight victories, each decided in a single, decisive move. Those who had just been hurling insults at him had already changed their tune. Upon advancing to the finals, teachers from major universities began extending offers to Yi He, but every single one of them was turned down, because his goal had always been Hwadu University. Yi His performance also caught the attention of the examiners, who specifically approached him and stated that they needed to retest his martial warrior level. This came as no surprise. Ever since acquiring a monster template, Yi He's strength had skyrocketed, far surpassing the school's recorded data. Even so, the test results still shocked the examiners. Yi He's strength had reached 5th disciple, 9th stage. Just half a month ago, he had only been at 5th disciple, 3rd stage. The examiners questioned why he had been frequently entering first-rank dungeons after leaving school, especially so close to the college entrance exam. He casually made up an explanation, saying it was to temper himself. Before his father left, he had told him that to surpass humanity, one must first surpass oneself. So He kept fighting in dungeons until he finally broke the gene lock. The examiners were utterly stunned. What? You actually broke the gene lock? As soon as the words fell, the 2 examiners rushed out of the room without looking back, saying they had to report to their superiors immediately. As a result, Yi He was officially placed under special observation. Soon, the day of the advancement matches arrived. Yi He's opponent was Luo Xuan from Anqing No. 3 High School, a 5th disciple, 8th-stage cultivator with a 2nd-tier rare monster bloodline. Yi He merely said casually, telling him to make the first move. Feeling slighted, Luo Xuan snorted coldly. He immediately unleashed the martial technique, Thunderclaw. His body accelerated 3 times in succession, razor-sharp claws lunging straight for Yi He. He's throat. That strike alone was enough to kill a 5th disciple, 9th stage expert. Yet He caught it with ease, remarking calmly that the momentum was decent, but still far inferior to that bald man. As he spoke, He raised his hand and chopped downward. The 5th disciple, 8th stage Luo Xuan collapsed unconscious on the spot. He sounded impatient. Can't you bring me a decent opponent? Another 1-move victory. And this time, it was a seeded contender. The cameras were now fully locked onto Yi He, and the live stream exploded. In this era where martial strength reigned supreme, his overwhelming power ignited the audience's passion. Viewers exclaimed that even Luo Xuan had been instantly defeated. This man was on a completely different level from the rest. Watching Luo Xuan being carried away, Chu Zhou felt his fighting spirit flare. Worthy of being the opponent I chose, he muttered. Wait for me. I'll defeat you in the finals. At the same time, the admissions office of Hwadu University also took notice of Yi He's performance. The person in charge immediately ordered that his complete profile be gathered within half an hour. The second advancement match was just as thrilling, as it featured a showdown between 2 hugely popular girls, drawing even more attention. Sai Shaolin flicked her golden twin ponytails and taunted, "Miss Liu, I really hate that icy look of yours." Liu Qingzu clasped her fists in greeting, her expression unchanged. clearly not taking Kai Shaolin seriously. With a shout from the referee, the match officially began. Kai Shaolin erupted with the strength of fifth disciple, ninth stage, sweeping out a vicious whip kick. Let's see if you can keep that composure when I pin you to the ground. Liu Qingzu raised her hands, which glowed pale blue as the surrounding airflow thickened like a swamp, drastically weakening Kai Shaolin's attack. Seeing Liu Qingzu remain calm only fueled Kai Shaolin's rage. She shouted sharply, "Get serious!" Kai Shaolin then unleashed her full power, turning into a blur as she circled at high speed, found an opening, and struck with a palm. Instead, she stepped straight into an air trap laid out by Liu Qingzu, leaving her completely immobilized. Immediately after, Liu Qingzu launched her counterattack, her jade-like fingers glowing with profound light. The host recognized it instantly. In Xuanhuang grade martial technique, primordial jade finger. For a high school student to reach such awakening was astounding, more than enough to earn direct admission to Huadu University. Sensing the danger, Kai Shaolin instantly awakened. The power of the Golden-Silver Tiger King bloodline exploded outward, shattering the air trap in an instant. Every examiner watching was stunned. King-tier bloodlines were notoriously difficult to control, especially the violently dominant Golden-Silver Tiger King. This girl's future was limitless. Panting heavily, Kai Shaolin roared, "Show me your nether bloodline!" Liu Qingzu replied calmly, "This is enough." Completely enraged, Kai Shaolin launched an all-out assault. A Tiger King phantom rose behind her, while Liu Qingzu responded with softness, overcoming force. Jade fingers and a tiger's palm collided violently. The entire arena shattered in a deafening explosion. As the dust settled, Kai Shaolin collapsed, her body covered in blood. Liu Qingzu remained elegant and composed, crushing a king-tier bloodline of the same level in just 5 moves. The live stream erupted as viewers shouted that Goddess Liu was unbelievably strong. Certainly Anqing's top scorer this year. The top 8 were finalized. Anqing #1 High School claimed 3 spots, with Yihe, Liu Qingzu, and Chu Zhou all advancing. During the draw, he pulled the A slot, facing a towering man nearly 2.5 meters tall. The opponent revealed the matching draw and introduced himself in a coquettish tone as Shin Guan from Qingfeng Private High School. He nodded and gave his own name. Shin Guan then said that, according to the big screen, they were scheduled for the second arena match and should watch the first one. The first quarterfinal featured Qingfeng Ruoxi versus Chu Zhou of Ancheng. Shin Guan enthusiastically explained that Ruoxi was a repeater aiming for Imperial Capital University, but against Chu Zhou, she likely wouldn't make it. Curious, he asked. Then what about her against you? Shin Guan smiled honestly and replied that he was the martial arts chairman of Qingfeng High. 2 of her together still wouldn't be his match. As he spoke, Shin Guan suddenly turned serious. He said his senses had always been exceptionally sharp, and he felt like a dormant volcano, as if a massive beast were sleeping within him. By then, the first match had ended with Chu Zhou victorious. It was their turn to step onto the arena. At that moment, the matchup board lit up for the second quarterfinal. Qingfeng's Shin Guan versus Yihe, he of Anqing #1 High School. As the referee's whistle sounded, Yihe and Shin Guan threw punches at the same time. The instant their fists collided, the air itself trembled. Shin Guan was sent reeling, blood streaming from his nose. Yet his eyes shone with excitement. He formed a barrier with dense qi, temporarily blocking Yihe's nuclear radiation seal. "So this is your power?" Shin Guan muttered. "Directly destroying cells. Incredible." He didn't respond, his fighting spirit igniting instead. Shin Guan roared, declaring that he would now witness the Shin family's inherited martial art. With a thunderous shout, he unleashed the martial technique, Sing Yi Fist. His punch struck the ground, and his fists moved with antler-like speed. In the blink of an eye, the blows slammed into Yihe's chest, forcing him to spit out blood as his body was hurled back dozens of meters. Shin Guan immediately shifted his stance, his body swelling like a giant bear as he lunged forward with several tons of force. He hurriedly raised his arms to block. Suddenly, Shin Guan withdrew his fist and flashed behind Yihe. With an over-the-shoulder throw, he hurled Yihe into the air. Dropping to all fours, Shin Guan let out a roar like a tiger's howl. He leapt upward, launching a relentless chain of attacks. At the end, he dove down like an eagle in a killing plunge, smashing Yihe hard into the ground. The seamless combination left the medical staff outside the arena preparing to rush in. In their eyes, such an assault was more than enough to kill an ordinary martial warrior. Yet the very next second, Shin Guan's expression changed drastically as he retreated in terror. From within the dust, a scaled arm slowly extended. He had already activated his Godzilla form, rising back to his feet. "You're strong, he said calmly. "As a reward, you're the first to witness this form of mine." Shin Guan's eyes widened as his voice trembled. "That's a beast true form. Your bloodline awakening has reached this level? A beast's true form was the ultimate manifestation achievable only when a martial warrior fully mastered their bloodline, allowing the beast's power to be unleashed to its absolute limit. The examiners were equally stunned, remarking that no one expected a place like Ancheng to produce not only Liu Qingzu, a martial prodigy, but another bloodline prodigy as well. As He revealed his true form, the energy detector on the examiner's platform suddenly emitted a piercing alarm. The display showed nuclear radiation levels spiking off the charts, prompting the examiners to join forces and deploy an energy barrier to prevent radiation leakage. The audience exploded in excitement. So this was Yi. His bloodline awakening. Absolutely overwhelming. Just what kind of beast bloodline had he awakened? On the arena, blood once again poured from Xinguan's nose as Yi. His nuclear radiation broke through his defenses. Realizing the fight had to end quickly, Xinguan immediately activated his own bloodline awakening. Golden Star Ape, Demon, another third-tier king-level bloodline. Golden light surging across his body. His figure expanded to 3 meters tall as he unleashed Xingyi Fist. Serpent Breath, striking straight at Yi. Yi answered with the mountain-blocking fist, their fists colliding as shockwaves roared outward. In this clash, Yi completely suppressed Xinguan. Cracks spread across Xinguan's golden skin. Had he not diverted the force in time, his entire arm would have been shattered. You're already outstanding, Xinguan, Yi, he said calmly. But I have to win this fight. Knowing he could no longer overpower Yi, he head on. Xinguan chose to change tactics, retreating to advance. His arms coiled like serpents around Yi, his left arm, attempting to hurl him away. Yi, however, stood firm like an unmovable mountain. Xinguan then leapt high into the air, unleashing his strongest attack in a final charge. The shockwave instantly shattered the surface of the arena. Yet when the dust settled, Yi still stood tall on the platform, completely unscathed. Now was Yi's turn. In the next second, blue energy surged around his fist, its unstable, terrifying heat warping the air itself. Just as Yi was about to strike, Xinguan suddenly dropped to one knee. Big brother, I concede. The sudden surrender caught Yi. He completely off guard. The energy bottled up inside him was extremely uncomfortable. But by the rules, he could only force it back. As the dark blue-black skin receded, Yi returned to human form. The moment the match ended, the entire arena exploded in uproar. That very morning, Yi's performance began winning over countless fans. Clips of him instantly defeating opponents went viral online. Seeing Xinguan concede, the principal of Qingfeng flew into a rage. You useless trash! Do you have any idea how much money we spent training you? You concede just like that? If you don't pay it all back, don't even think about going to college. In response, Xinguan merely patted the principal's shoulder lightly, sending a chill straight through him. Xinguan said calmly, I conceded that punch to avoid damaging my foundation. As for the school's investment in me, I will repay it in the future. But remember this, principal. You cannot threaten a martial warrior stronger than yourself. In the matches that followed, all 3 representatives from Ancheng No. 1 High School advanced to the semifinals. During the semifinal draw, Yi once again drew the A slot. When he looked up, his gaze met Liu Qingzu's jet-black, gem-like eyes. She held an A as well. The first semifinal of the college entrance tournament, an internal battle at Ancheng No. 1 High School. Yi versus Liu Qingzu. The moment the news broke, the entire venue erupted. At last, the long-awaited showdown had arrived. The strongest battle in Ancheng's college entrance exam history. Goddess Liu will win. DAE is the true king. Online debates raged non-stop, but the answer was about to be revealed. Yi versus Liu Qingzu at Ancheng No. 1 High School. As the referee's voice fell, the match officially began. Liu Qingzu's martial techniques far surpassed Yi's, relying on those almost mystical combat arts. Even with overwhelming raw power, it was impossible to inflict any real damage on her. He judged that a martial prodigy like this also possessed exceptional combat intelligence. The longer the fight dragged on, the worse it would be for him. So he chose to go all out from the very start. The moment the match began, he activated his Godzilla initial state, releasing massive amounts of steam that quickly engulfed the entire arena. He roared, 5-element land mountain fist, and in an instant, he was already in front of Liu Qingzu. Liu Qingzu swung both arms, stirring the airflow before her, clearly trying to draw in and neutralize the incoming punch. But he never threw a punch at all. In midair, he twisted his waist and changed momentum. His thick tail lashed out like a steel whip, shattering the air as it struck toward Liu Qingzu's lower body. Liu Qingzu had fought countless opponents since childhood, but she had never encountered someone who shouted a punch only to attack with something else. In a battle between experts, everything could change within a few crucial seconds. and her rhythm was completely disrupted. Forced by the situation, Liu Qingju retreated. Yi. He seized the opening, pressing forward relentlessly with his overwhelming physique and firmly taking control of the fight. Deep blue claws tore through the air. Liu Qingju barely avoided being struck by bending backward at the last moment. She possessed two mystic yellow martial techniques: the Liu family's defensive secret art, Illusory Splendor Shadow, and the offensive Hunyuan Jade Finger. Fully executing either one would have let her escape the relentless pressure, but Yi He, he gave her no such chance. After his bloodline awakening, Yi, his strength and speed stats were simply too high. For someone with Liu Qingzu's physique, taking even a single punch head-on could mean instant severe injury. It was like dancing on a tightrope. Her margin for error had shrunk to almost nothing. "Don't run, classmate Liu," Yi, he shouted. His fists blurred into afterimages, continuously compressing Liu Qingzu's room to evade. On the surface, Liu Qingzu remained cold and composed, but inwardly, she was already starting to panic. She knew that if this continued, it wouldn't be long before she was forced off the arena and defeated. At last, Liu Qingzu made her decision and played her trump card, Bloodline Awakening. Nether Sparrow. A sharp, eerie screech echoed as a pair of lush purple-black wings burst from her back. Under the arena lights, the wings shimmered with brilliant, multicolored radiance. The purple-black wings required no wind manipulation, effortlessly suspending Liu Qingzu in midair. After her Bloodline Awakening, the coldness on her face softened, gaining a touch of vivid vitality. A faint smile curved her rosy lips, excitement flickering in her eyes. "Careful, Yi," she warned. "Yi," he replied calmly that in this form, he couldn't fully control his strength. Hearing that, he chuckled. "Is that so? That's all I needed to hear." After all, up to this point, Yi, he had only been using about 50% of his power. Now, he was ready to go all out. As her words fell, Liu Qingzu launched the first strike. With a flap of her wings, she appeared instantly behind Yi He, attacking with the mystic yellow technique, Hunyuan Jade Finger. Sensing the threat, Yi He turned at once. A crystalline blue glow lit up his rock-like fist, his technique that fused Godzilla's atomic reaction ability with martial arts, known as the Atomic Blast Fist. Her elegant jade-colored fingertip collided head-on with the ferocious blue-lit demonic fist, triggering a violent energy reaction at the point of contact. With a thunderous boom, a blazing explosion of light and heat, coupled with a raging shockwave, blasted both of them backward. Liu Qingzu beat her purple-black wings, neutralizing most of the impact from the blast. Riding the momentum, she tried to burst through the smoke toward Yi He, but the instant the haze parted, her pupils contracted sharply. One by one, the protruding dorsal spines on Yi He's back lit up. Each segment that ignited released a terrifying surge of energy. Liu Qingzu immediately sensed a lethal threat. Shocked, she realized that Yi He's beast true form was charging power. The raised spinal ridges were accumulating massive energy, channeling it bit by bit toward Yi He's mouth. When every dorsal plate glowed with blue light, he unleashed a beam filled with destructive aura, the atomic breath. Liu Qingzu reacted decisively, snapping her wings shut to tightly shield herself. In the next instant, a terrifying torrent of energy completely engulfed Liu Qingzu. At the brink of life and death, the bloodline power within her, still not fully defined, was forcibly awakened. Countless purple-black feathers shimmered with crystal-like reflections. When the blue particle beam struck them, it was refracted like light hitting a mirror. A single, massive condensed beam was split into numerous smaller rays by the feathers and reflected outward. Centered on the black feathered sphere that Liu Qingzu had become, the rays shot in all directions. They were about to blast beyond the arena. And even though the examiners wanted to intervene, it was already too late. At that critical moment, a layer of golden energy suddenly enveloped the entire arena. Every ray heading outside the platform vanished the instant it touched the golden construct, as if it had been swallowed and dissolved completely. The one who acted was Huang Qin, the mayor of Anchang. The examiners were about to greet him, but he raised a hand to stop them. "No need," he said calmly. "Just watch. Today, Anchang's strongest top scorer in history will be born." About 15 seconds later, the atomic breath finally ceased. Liu Qingzu spat out a mouthful of blood. Her purple-black wings, pushed to their absolute limit and reflecting the atomic breath, had been melted and left in tatters. Had she not promptly used the martial technique Illusory Splendor Shadow to disperse the remaining impact, she might not have survived that strike. From the moment she was born, Liu Qingzu had carried the expectations of the Liu family. Under those expectations, she was forced to prove the prestige of the Liu family's eldest daughter in battle after battle. Outsiders praised her talent and strength endlessly, yet she herself had never cared much for those titles. Perhaps even she didn't truly know why she fought at all. She didn't even want to fight. Comparing herself with others felt meaningless. She simply followed her mother's wishes, moving forward in silence. Weariness filled her thoughts. I'm so tired. He is truly strong. Losing to an opponent like this is only natural, isn't it? With that thought, Liu Qingzu deliberately exposed an opening, tapping the ground with her toe and striking Yi He with a palm. Yi He, however, made no move at all, standing there and taking the blow head on. Liu Qingzu's beautiful eyes widened in shock. Why didn't you dodge, Yi? He frowned slightly as he looked at her. Classmate Qingzhu, where did your fighting spirit go? From the very start, I could tell you weren't fully focused. Did you ever truly face me seriously? I'm going to win this top scorer title fair at Square, so get serious. As he spoke, he snapped his arm forward. The howling wind followed his fist as it smashed toward her face. The punch landed, sending Liu Qingzhu flying backward. He closed in instantly, mounted her, and unleashed heavy, unrestrained punches straight at her face. Liu Qingzhu shielded her head with both arms, utterly disheveled. She had never been treated like this her entire life, and now, being pinned down and pummeled in front of hundreds of thousands of live viewers, an overwhelming sense of grievance flooded her heart. I was already willing to give you the victory. Why won't you let it go? Don't hit a girl in the face, you jerk! Liu Qingzhu shouted with reddened eyes. A violent surge of power erupted from her body, blasting Yi He away. His eyes burned with excitement. This was exactly what he wanted. She was finally serious. Ash scattered through the air as enormous purple-black wings spread wide. Gale force winds erupted. Strange, eerie patterns crept across Liu Qingzhu's face, tail feathers billowing like a cloak behind her, while a piercing avian cry echoed across the arena. She had entered her beast, true form. In this state, Liu Qingzhu appeared cold, radiant, and confident. Yi, as you wished, I'll crush you at my strongest. He chuckled. So you finally revealed your beast form. Now this gets interesting. In that case, I won't hold back either. As he spoke, he released his atomic reaction, surging energy engulfing his entire body. He transformed into a humanoid radiating terrifying blue light. This was the physical art born from fusing the Godzilla template with hardstyle chi cultivation. Nuclear radiance battle form. Energy gathered beneath his feet. With a thunderous blast, the explosion propelled Yi He forward like a missile, shooting straight at Liu Qingzhu. Liu Qingzhu beat her wings, drawing in the surrounding airflow and forging it into a raging hurricane. The storm was further infused with nether energy capable of devouring power. The nether hurricane tore the arena's foundation to shreds. He showed no fear at all, plunging straight into the storm like a torpedo. The eerie patterns on Liu Qingzhu's face instantly turned purple-red, scorching hot like molten iron. As she opened her mouth and let out a piercing avian cry, the visible sound waves twisted the air and surged forward, completely engulfing Yi He's figure. The atomic energy surrounding Yi He flickered like unstable flames. If not for his high-tier legendary Godzilla bloodline, the nether-infused sonic wave alone would have shattered his body. You think you're the only one who can roar? Yi He opened his mouth as segments of his dorsal spine lit up one after another with blue radiance. Atomic energy reacted violently, releasing a terrifying aura as He unleashed his atomic breath at maximum output. The dazzling blue beam surged forth like divine punishment, tearing through the sky as it blasted straight toward Liu Qingzhu, aiming to decide the battle in a single clash. After this maximum output atomic breath, Yi He's body would be unable to initiate any atomic reactions for a short time. Determination flashed in Liu Qingzhu's eyes as she abandoned all defense. She released her strongest attack as well, choosing a head-on collision. The 5-element, Profound Yellow Hunyuan, Jade Finger, fused with the Nether Sparrow bloodline, Nether Blood Thorn. Purple-red destructive energy condensed at her emerald fingertips. She charged straight into the brilliant beam without hesitation. The spectators froze. This is bad. This level of power is completely beyond their control. The mayor's expression turned grave. Without hesitation, he activated the genetic art Earth Vein Divine Wall. Any accident involving either of these prodigies would be an unbearable loss to Anqing and even the Xia nation. The ground trembled as 3 massive stone walls reinforced by the mayor's power erupted from the earth, blocking the clash. The walls collapsed instantly, and blinding white light swallowed everything. What a terrifying impact. Was that wall just released by the mayor? He was clearly trying to stop their head-on clash. If he hadn't intervened, everyone here would have been caught in it. The crowd stared tensely at the mayor, then turned their heavy gazes toward the arena, shrouded in smoke. Although he had released 3 Earth Vein Divine Walls in time to mitigate He, and Liu Qingzhu's full power strike, the preparation was far too rushed, leaving the walls much weaker than usual. In the end, they were shattered by the successive impacts, causing the two forces to collide directly at the center of the arena. At that moment, Liu Qingju lay sprawled in the middle of the arena, utterly battered. Her wings were completely scorched, and one arm was severely burned, leaving her in a miserable state. Even so, she still showed no intention of giving up and tried to continue fighting. Yi He, however, was completely uninjured. He simply shook his head. Calmly, he warned her that if the nuclear radiation in her body wasn't removed soon, her future would be ruined. Liu Qingju fell silent for a moment. Then, with a look of grievance, she said she never wanted the fight to reach this point. Why did Yi He insist on dragging her into such an intense battle? Hearing this, Yi He crouched down and looked her straight in the eyes, calmly asking whether she truly didn't want to fight or if she was simply rebelling against admitting her own competitiveness. He said that during their life-or-death clash, he could clearly feel her desire for victory. Liu Qingju fell silent once again. She had to admit he was right. In that moment, she truly wanted to defeat him, which was why she abandoned defense and unleashed her full power. Yet confusion followed. She had always hated fighting and originally wanted to lose as quickly as possible, but during that head-on collision, she undeniably felt it. The exhilaration of fighting not for anyone else, but purely for herself. He chuckled softly, placing a hand on her shoulder and absorbing all the residual nuclear radiation from her body. He said plainly that she had been burdened by too many distracting thoughts during the fight, and that was the reason she lost. Even so, she was still the strongest opponent he had ever faced. He added that he hoped one day they would have the chance to fight a truly pure battle. Hearing this, Liu Qingzu's cheeks flushed, and she froze in place. At that moment, the dust finally settled, and every camera focused on the center of the arena. Under countless gazes, he stood proudly. The referee paused for a full 2.5 seconds before excitedly announcing the result. The first semifinal ended with Ihan Hung #1 high victorious, while Chu Zhou won the other match without suspense. Thus, Yi He and Chu Zhou advanced together to the finals, marking the beginning of Anqing's ultimate college entrance exam battle. This final match would determine who claimed the title of Anqing's top scorer, as tens of thousands of viewers watched in breathless anticipation. At the referee's signal, Chu Zhou clasped her hands together, then slowly pulled them apart. A frost-covered ice sword condensed in her palm as she spoke calmly. "Please enlighten me." He flashed a grin, showing his white teeth. "Come at me," he replied casually. Although he had already defeated the strongest contender, Liu Qingju, he showed no carelessness when facing Chu Zhou. From his observations, her battle intelligence was likely the highest among all the examinees this year. A layer of frost armor capable of isolating nuclear radiation spread across Chu Zhou's body. Her gaze sharpened as she stepped into a 7-star footwork pattern. After images flickered unpredictably as she closed in, and with sharp whoosh sounds, hundreds of sword strikes stabbed in from all directions. He remained unmoving. As he clenched his fist, crystalline and eerie blue light spread across his arm like interlocking steel. He threw a single atomic blast punch. The blue explosion erupted instantly, flooding a 10-meter radius with nuclear energy and brutally shattering every incoming blade. Chu Zhou stared at the arena cratered as if by artillery fire, a deep sense of dread rising within him. With his level of defense, a head-on clash with Yi He. He was impossible. He was a monster. Since close combat wouldn't work, long-range attrition was the only option. With that thought, Chu Zhou immediately activated his bloodline awakening. The power of the ice demon dragon surged to life, his eyes transforming into golden vertical pupils. Crystal-like dragon scales rapidly spread across his body. Bloodline energy erupted outward, forming a pair of obsidian-like dragon horns atop his head. As Chu Zhou let out a roar, icy veins went berserk, and a torrent of freezing air swept across the entire arena. Countless ice spikes converged, forming a frozen tsunami over 10 meters high. Carrying bone-chilling cold, it surged violently toward Yi He. A small iceberg rose from the ground, plunging the arena, once scorched by summer heat, instantly below zero. The livestream chat, moments ago flooded with "Yi He is insane," fell into complete silence. A viewer couldn't help but curse out loud. Chu Zhou had created an iceberg out of thin air. That freezing power was like a living ice demon dragon. Chu Zhou breathed lightly. Unleashing such overwhelming cold in a single burst placed a heavy strain on his body. Even though He was completely sealed within layers of ice veins, Chu Zhou didn't relax. He was far from naive enough to believe he would be defeated so easily. At that moment, a message suddenly swept across the livestream chat. "Look, the ice mountain is melting." The very next second, a brilliant blue energy beam pierced straight through the ice mountain and shot toward Chu Zhou. Chu Zhou, who had been on guard the entire time, reacted instantly. He activated his bloodline power, causing an ice pillar to erupt from the ground and launch him out of the blast zone. With a deafening boom, the blue energy beam slammed into the weapon barrier jointly deployed by the examiners, sending massive ripples across its surface. The freezing ice mountain began to melt at an alarming rate, and a deep blue demon figure slowly emerged from within. The meltwater hadn't even reached Yi before it was instantly vaporized by the high-energy heat radiating from his body. He strode toward Chuzhou, each step leaving behind a footprint that melted the ground itself. No matter how fiercely Chuzhou pushed his ice attribute bloodline to attack, it made no difference. In the end, Chuzhou let out a quiet sigh and fixed Yi, with a razor-sharp gaze. Yi, take my final move. This is the peak of my martial path. I originally intended to use it against Liu Qingzhu. As he spoke, Chuzhou closed his eyes, shut down his martial perception, and raised his ice sword toward the sky. Frost rapidly enveloped his body, while crystalline dragon scales across his skin shone even brighter, a clear sign that his bloodline power had been fully unleashed. Sword intent that cut straight to the soul. With a burst of freezing wind, Chuzhou appeared right beside Yi. A piercing dragon's roar echoed across the arena. The first to react was the mayor of Incity. His shock rivaled what he'd felt when Liu Qingzhu unleashed a profound yellow martial technique. Sword intent? At his age? Drip. Several drops of scorching blue blood fell onto the arena floor, burning deep pits into the ground. His hand was raised in front of his neck, a bone-deep sword wound carved across his palm. Blue light flickered through the torn flesh as it slowly regenerated. He said calmly, "Try again with a better sword. You might stand a chance." Chuzhou opened his eyes, looked at the shattered ice sword in his hand, and knew he had lost. Then, after a brief silence, he asked out of curiosity, "So what were my chances?" Yi thought for a moment and smiled as he replied, "A little better than a simp actually succeeding," leaving Chuzhou speechless before he straightforwardly admitted defeat. The referee announced excitedly, "And City College Entrance Martial Arts Final. Yi wins." In the next instant, drums thundered as countless fireworks were ignited, making it feel as though the entire city was cheering for Yi's victory. The mayor then stepped onto the arena, smiling warmly as he looked at Yi. Both the spectators on site and the viewers following the 24th and City College entrance exam through live streams had endured 3 full days of brutal combat to reach this result. The martial arts top scorer of Incity was finally decided, and it was Yi from Incity No. 1 High School. Yi's name flooded the live stream chat once again, and everyone understood that the overall level of this year's tournament far surpassed any previous edition. For Yi to emerge victorious from such competition, it was only natural that he was regarded as the strongest top scorer in Incity's history, one perhaps no future generation could surpass. The host stepped forward and asked, "Yi, it said your strength came from late blooming and long-term accumulation. Now that you've claimed the top spot, is there anything you'd like to say?" He thought to himself that intellectuals really had a way of making even cheating sound subtle, then cleared his throat and said, "First of all, I want to thank my teacher, who didn't give up on me when I was at my lowest, and encouraged me to regain my fighting spirit." Watching the speech through the live stream, Yi's homeroom teacher's eyes reddened as tears fell uncontrollably, filled with guilt at realizing he hadn't truly noticed such a prodigy until just before the exam. At that moment, the principal in the front row stand suddenly stood up and raised both hands, gesturing the number 20. He then mouthed silently, 2 million. Yi, promote in City No. 1 High School for us, and I'll award you a 2 million scholarship. Seeing the principal's signal, Yi immediately understood and knew exactly how to deliver his award speech, thanking his alma mater and the principal, saying that without such wise leadership, none of this would have been possible. Finally, Yi added that he also wanted to thank himself, because without his own hard work and intelligence, he would never have achieved today's success. He told these blatant lies without the slightest embarrassment, and at that moment the system prompt sounded, congratulating the host on obtaining the top scorer title and awarding one random template ability draw. Hearing the notification, Yi was instantly thrilled and couldn't help wondering whether the next template would be something as powerful as Godzilla. Filled with anticipation, Yi headed toward the gymnasium exit, planning to find a secluded spot to draw the monster template. However, the moment he pushed the door open, cameras with long lenses swarmed around him. Yi, who do you think looks better, Liu Qingzhu or Kai Shaolin? Or do you prefer Shen Guan or Chuzhou? Hearing the reporter's questions, he was utterly speechless and couldn't be bothered to waste time responding. He immediately dashed straight into the basketball hall. Not long after he arrived, a man wearing a black trench coat approached him. Yi, congratulations on becoming the top scorer. I'm from the capital, and next I'd like to talk to you about the gene lock. Gene lock? He was startled, as he had never unlocked any such thing, since all his abilities came from monster templates. Did this man know about his powers? He grew alert, while the man in the coat continued calmly, asking whether he had heard the term gene lock from his father. He replied without hesitation or embarrassment, saying yes. According to the original owner's memories, that was indeed the case. Aren't you curious how your father, just an ordinary taxi driver, could know a term that has nothing to do with his profession? Because of your special circumstances, the capital is authorized to unseal a classified file for you, the man in the trench coat said as he handed Yihei a sealed dossier. The file recorded the Prometheus incident, and Prometheus had once been a dominant research institute in Blue Star's biogenetics field. Due to a certain incident, the entire institute was jointly hunted down and sealed by multiple nations, forcing many core researchers to abandon their identities and vanish from public view. The first technology was one of Prometheus's most critical flagship projects at the time. After reading the file, he immediately understood the implication, realizing they had mistaken his so-called cheap dad for a senior Prometheus researcher, and that Yihi himself was being viewed as a secret experimental result. Rest assured, Yihi, the man said, the state will not make things difficult for you. I'm only here to inform you, since as the party involved, you have the right to know. Moreover, you are a key talent under national cultivation, and we will ensure your safety whenever necessary. He nodded, and chose not to pursue the topic further. After sending the man away, he rubbed his hands together, excitement surging through him. This college entrance exam had been a massive win, securing him admission to Huado University. On top of that, he received a 2 million scholarship from the principal, along with an additional 800,000 bonus. More importantly, he had earned a chance to draw a brand new template ability. And although he knew that legendary Godzilla-level templates were nearly impossible to obtain, anticipation still bubbled up within him. The moment he initiated the draw, a black vortex reappeared on the system interface. From within the vortex came the furious roars of countless monsters. Only when heavy footsteps shook the ground like an earthquake did he begin to realize what kind of template he had drawn. Foundation template, Colossal Titan, Bloodline ability, Gigantification, 60-meter heat steam advanced form, 10 Titan forms, compatibility, 1%. After reading the information, he couldn't help feeling disappointed. As expected, legendary Godzilla tier templates were not something one could simply draw at will. This time, he had only drawn a D-rank template, the Colossal Titan. He suddenly had a flash of insight, realizing that abilities from different templates could actually be stacked together. If the Colossal Titan template were combined with the legendary Godzilla template, he might truly become the real king of monsters, Godzilla. Meanwhile, in a dimly lit room, Huolong's index finger tapped incessantly against the redwood table beneath him. One shallow dent after another quickly formed on the tabletop. His younger brother, Huopeng, had been missing for half a month, and the rescue team sent into the secret realm hadn't even managed to recover a body. As a seasoned secret realm veteran, Huolong knew all too well that his brother was almost certainly dead, with all traces thoroughly erased by their enemy. The rescue team brought back several samples from the last place Huopeng was seen, and tests revealed traces of nuclear radiation, though there was no direct evidence pointing to Yihei as the culprit. However, Huolong had only ever heard of Yi possessing such an ability, so in his mind, the murderer could only be Yi. He let out a cold laugh while watching Yi's advancement highlights playing on the television. He must be a rare genius in City. Someone Huado University would fight to recruit, but unfortunately, they would never get the chance to see Yihi enroll. Time passed quickly, and 3 days later, Yihi was preparing to head out to a secret realm to test his theory of stacking the Godzilla template with the Colossal Titan template. Before he could even depart, he received a letter from Chuzhou stating that according to the Imperial Central Research Institute, a new secret realm rift would open at 3P.M. and Hongshu Mountain on the outskirts of City, estimated to be around C rank, and asking whether he would like to form a team to explore it. His first reaction after reading the letter wasn't about the new secret realm at all, but rather disbelief that in the year 2025, Chuzhou was still using such a traditional method to send messages. After finishing his internal complaints, he immediately set off for Hongshu Mountain. As the clock struck 3 p.m., the once deserted Hongshu Mountain welcomed the largest crowd of visitors in its history. Thousands of martial artists gathered there, including many renowned powerhouses and major organizations. The new secret realm was clearly in high demand, and he successfully met up with Chuzhou outside Hongshu Mountain, who was still dressed in white and radiated elegance, though this time with an additional accessory at his waist. As Chuzhou remarked, you've grown stronger again." Hearing that, Yihei let out a chuckle, surprised by how sharp Chuzhou's senses were. Over the past few days, Yihei had indeed upgraded himself, using the money earned from the college entrance exam to purchase several gene serums, raising the Colossal Titan template's compatibility to 35%, proving that low-rank templates could show results very quickly. With the secret realm rift not yet open, he casually chatted with Chuzhou and asked which university he planned to apply for, to which Chuzhou answered Wadu University, meaning they would likely become classmates again. As soon as he finished speaking, the crowd erupted as the secret realm was about to open, and a massive gash tens of meters long tore open across the mountainside of Hongshu Mountain. Within the rift flowed a stream resembling a starry river, and at the same time, a sinister, mocking laugh echoed from deep inside the secret realm. The next moment, a grotesque three-headed monstrous bird forced half of its body out of the rift, unmistakably a powerful magical beast. Relying on its overwhelming strength, it seized the first position to break out of the secret realm. Unfortunately for it, waiting ahead were over 1,000 fully armed martial artists standing ready. "Kill!" the martial artists roared in unison, their shouts shaking the forest as they charged forward without hesitation toward the three-headed bird blocking their path. The three-headed monster stared in terror as thousands of martial artists surged toward it like madmen. It tried to retreat back into the rift, but its massive body was firmly stuck, and within seconds, it was trampled into a bloody mess by the crowd. Afterward, He and Chuzhou followed the massive wave of martial artists and entered the secret realm together. What greeted them was an astonishing forest of colossal trees, each towering nearly 100 meters tall. A thick stench of blood instantly filled the air. Within the secret realm, a small-scale beast tide had already gathered near the rift. At that moment, the martial artists were locked in brutal combat with the beast tide, as roars and screams merged into a cruel and blood-soaked symphony of war. The reason the martial artists chose to hold the line against the beast tide at the secret realm entrance instead of scattering to search for treasures was due to a national law stating that while martial artists have the right to freely explore secret realms, they also bear the obligation to defend Blue Star against secret realm beast tides. If a martial artist were to ignore a beast tide and allow it to spill into the real world, causing civilian casualties, their martial artist status would be revoked, and they would be sent to a military court. For martial artists, greater power comes with greater responsibility, and both and Chuzhou joined the ranks resisting the beast tide. Chuzhou activated his bloodline power and unleashed vast sheets of ice, freezing the legs of the charging magical beasts ahead. Although the ice was quickly shattered as the beast broke free, it still successfully delayed their advance for several seconds. Many martial artists seized this brief window and surged forward, swiftly cutting down the frozen beasts. On the other side, He's combat style was even more terrifying, instilling fear even in allied martial artists, as nuclear radiation was silent, invisible, and nearly impossible to resist. Most frightening of all was the fact that this power directly attacked living cells at the cellular level. On this battlefield, a walking source of nuclear contamination, could finally unleash radiation without restraint. He was like a grim reaper on the battlefield, and wherever he passed, life began to rot, collapse, and wither away. He didn't need to actively attack, only to remain within the protected core of the martial artists while continuously releasing lethal levels of radiation across the beast tide, and any accidental radiation absorbed by allies would be quickly reclaimed by him. Beast tides form because several Lord-level magical beasts serve as their commanders, and once these leaders are eliminated, the tide naturally collapses. At present, roughly 10 high-tier martial artists had already joined forces and ventured deep into the beast nest to locate the Lord-level beasts and carry out a decapitation strike. The high-intensity battle dragged on for an unknown length of time until a signal flare lit up the sky, causing the eyes of the long-numb martial artists to finally regain their spark. Signals soon came from the front lines announcing that the counter-offensive had succeeded, victory was achieved, and the beast tide began to retreat, leaving just over 800 survivors from the original force of more than 1,000. He walked toward Chuzhou carrying several bulging burlap sacks, his relaxed demeanor standing out starkly among the exhausted and bloodstained warriors. Chuzhou handed over a spatial ring in surprise and said, "How did you get so many magic cores? Take my spatial ring and store them first. One ring alone is worth tens of millions." He chuckled and joked that Chuzhou was unexpectedly rich, then without hesitation stuffed several burlap sacks straight into the spatial ring. Someone nearby sighed, saying, "Wu Sen, the boss and the others are back. Thank goodness high-tier martial artists went to kill the Lord-level beasts. Otherwise, we would have been exhausted to death by the beast horde." The crowd bustled as they voluntarily parted to form a path, and a tall, upright-looking man strode forward. He looked up and saw the man stop right in front of him, who then said, "Hello, and City's top scorer. My name is Wu Sen, branch leader of the Silver Wolf Martial Group in City." Wu Sen continued, I just heard my members talking about your heroic performance, and I'd like to ask whether you're willing to join our martial group. Joining won't affect your university plans and will grant you various subsidies, and I'm offering you an S-rank member contract. Wu Sen's words instantly drew envy from the surrounding martial artists, as this was an incredible opportunity. Without the backing of a martial group, a lone martial artist simply couldn't sustain such a resource-intensive career, and the Silver Wolf Martial Group ranked among the major groups across Xia Nation, with S-rank contracts out of reach even for many Imperial Capital University students. At that moment, a glossy striped tiger emerged from the crowd. Not a magical beast, but a gene-synthesized creature from a biotech company, with a valiant woman sitting cross-legged on its back. The woman smiled and said, "Wu Sen, I was wondering why you ran so fast. It turns out you rushed ahead to snatch talent, Yi. Join our Qingda Martial Group instead. Although we're slightly smaller than Silver Wolf, I can guarantee you 15% of our group's cultivation resources every month." As soon as she finished speaking, all the martial artists widened their eyes. 15% of cultivation resources was practically equivalent to equity, and a mere high school student had triggered a bidding war between two major martial groups. He quickly gave his answer, saying, "Sorry, I don't have any plans to join a martial group for now." Wu Sen and the others weren't surprised by his response, since with Yi's caliber, he would excel even in top-tier martial groups. And this attempt was more about building goodwill. During this time, Chuzhou also received invitations from Wu Sen and the others with the same S-rank offer, but he likewise chose to decline politely. After the Beast Tide crisis ended, many martial artists left the entrance area one after another and officially entered the free exploration phase. Yi and Chuzhou flew up to the treetops first, planning to observe the overall terrain of the region before making any decisions. However, the moment they reached the heights, both of them froze, as they saw a group of black humanoid beings slowly moving near distant mountains far away. Their bodies were as massive as the mountains themselves, and even from over 100 kilometers away, their silhouettes were still clearly visible. Such an exaggerated scale likely exceeded 1,000 meters in height, an almost unimaginable sight. Yet he felt excitement instead, believing that given enough time, they might one day conquer such secret realm beasts and even uncover the truth behind the secret realms. Seeing Yi's confident and passionate expression, Chuzhou fell momentarily silent, realizing that whether in martial cultivation or sheer willpower, he seemed inferior to Yi, who truly embodied what it meant to be a martial artist. He had no idea that his casual remarks had already turned into a lengthy internal monologue in Chuzhou's mind, elevating him to the role of a life mentor. And at that moment, he detected an abnormal area through his life field perception. It was a lake whose location appeared like a vacuum zone in his perception, completely blank, and sensing something amiss, he decisively chose to bring Chuzhou there to take a gamble. The two quickly passed through the giant tree forest and arrived at the lakeside, where 3 people were already gathered, including a familiar face, Huang Yuli, who had once handed Yi a discounted business card. Hearing Yi's voice, Huang Yuli chuckled and joked, "Isn't this our top scorer, Yi? I never imagined you'd turn out this impressive," before briefly recounting Yi's early days at the Martial Artist Center. The story left the other 2 teammates marveling at fate's twists, as a boy met by chance had stunned everyone in just half a month. And when he asked how long they had been there, Huang Yuli replied that they had just arrived and had already sent 2 water-specialized teammates into the lake to scout. As soon as Huang Yuli finished speaking, a figure suddenly leapt out of the water, one of her teammates, Yu Yang, who exclaimed excitedly, "Jackpot! We've struck gold. There's a relic beneath the lake. We're going to make a fortune." At the mention of relics, everyone's expressions changed. As within the secret realms, there exist mysterious structures believed to be remnants of a previous civilization, collectively referred to by experts as relics. These relics are said to contain technologies or creations left behind by that ancient civilization, with the theoretical foundations of modern martial arts and many genetic technologies originating from them. After sharing the information, Yu Yang immediately fixed Yi and Chuzhou with a hostile glare and demanded, "Who are you two, daring to eavesdrop on our conversation?" Huang Yuli gave a brief introduction and explained that once the spoils were obtained, Yi and Chuzhou, as external support, would be rewarded according to their contribution, taking exactly what they earned. No one had any objections to this arrangement. Yu Yang led the way at the front, with the others following him into the lake. Relying on the powerful lung capacity of martial artists, the 6 of them descended together to a depth of 30 meters, entering an underwater cavern. Yu Yang suddenly frowned and said, "That's strange. Where's Li Wei? Wasn't he supposed to guard this place?" After coming up, Yu Yang muttered in confusion. He then took out a wireless radio and called Li Wei several times, but there was no response at all. One teammate spoke quietly. "This place feels dangerous. Li Wei is already missing. Should we really continue exploring? Yu Yang fell silent for a moment, then said, "Explore. We have to explore. With wealth and glory right in front of you, if you don't act now, you'll be a bottom-tier martial artist for life. If that's the case, then let's move." Yu Yang walked at the front, leading everyone forward. Because of Li Wei's disappearance, the group had fallen into an uneasy silence, with everyone remaining on high alert for potential danger. As they went deeper into the underground limestone cave, the path grew increasingly narrow, and he moved through the cramped tunnel with his gaze flickering. He turned to meet Chuzhou's eyes and silently mouthed, "Something's wrong. The timing doesn't add up." According to Huang Yuli, her team had only arrived near the lake a short while ago, at most 10 or so minutes earlier. Yet Yu Yang and Li Wei had already located this cavern beneath the vast lake and navigated the underground passages to reach such a hidden route to the relic, which felt like having a map hack in a game. Clearly suspicious. Should he warn his acquaintance and leave immediately? He quickly decided not to panic. He still had a trump card. When the group emerged from the narrow, winding passage, the space ahead suddenly opened up into a gigantic cavern the size of a football field, with dense, dark green vines covering every corner. Many of those vines were wrapped around the corpses of magical beasts. Huang Yuli's expression darkened as she asked coldly, "Yu Yang, where is the relic you mentioned?" The moment she finished speaking, one teammate suddenly cried out in alarm. Following where she pointed, they saw a withered corpse pierced through by vines, hanging in midair. Judging from the clothes on the body, it was Li Wei. Yu Yang did not answer Huang Yuli's question, but collapsed to his knees, clutching his head and muttering hysterically, "The relic? Where is the relic? Why is there no relic here? Where did it go?" "Li Wei is dead. How did she die?" The vines are being controlled too. Run, all of you." He seemed to regain his last shred of sanity and suddenly turned back toward the group. The next instant, with a wet pop, his head exploded like a firework. Several vines swayed out from the gaping hole where his head had been, writhing like demonic tentacles. Before anyone could react, he unleashed atomic breath, and a dazzling blue beam instantly swallowed Yu Yang's upper body whole. The grotesque vines were completely annihilated by the atomic energy. No one expected a monster to possess such intelligence. After hunting 2 martial artists, it had parasitized a third's brain, using her as bait to lure even more prey. It was clear now that they had been carefully led straight into its true hunting ground. At that moment, a thunderous crash echoed from behind as massive rocks collapsed, and the passage they came through was violently shredded and sealed off by vines, cutting off all retreat. Staring at the horrifying vines, Chuzhou finally recalled seeing records of this monster in an old tome. This was a second-tier king-class monster species. Ghost Demon Vine, a king-class bloodline. Something that could not be measured by ordinary ranks. An existence far beyond what a handful of first-tier martial artists could ever hope to face. Hearing that, he grinned, flashing his white teeth. Whatever its rank, he would just blast it to pieces. Just as he was about to enter ultra-colossal giant mode, a thunderous boom erupted as the collapsed passage behind them was blown open. A mysterious martial artist surged in, wrapped in terrifying blood energy. His aura twisted the surrounding air, dragging out a long trail of crimson mist as he roared, "Yi-hee! I'm here to take your life! When I heard someone in the Red Tree Mountain secret realm was holding back the beast tide with nuclear radiation, I knew it had to be you." By following the residual radiation traces, I could track your movements. To avoid detection, I suppressed my breathing and followed you all the way into the underground caverns. I didn't expect you to still notice me, even after I sealed off the passage with boulders and stopped my heartbeat and breathing. Entering a state of feigned death. No wonder you were the one who cornered my Hua family brothers. He looked genuinely puzzled. "Sir, who are you? You burst in saying all this nonsense. Do we even know each other? Drop the act and die." Hua Long roared like rolling thunder and lunged at Yi, but instantly realized something was wrong. This was no relic site at all, but the lair of a powerful monster. "Is this the Ghost Demon Vine's nest? You dragged me into a monster's den to have it deal with me. Damn it. Was this your plan too?" "Yi, the Ghost Demon Vine absorbs weapons and releases neurotoxins. If this drags on, I'll die here. Damn you for setting me up." Waves of demonic vines surged, trying to tear Huolong apart. Inside the confined cavern, every punch and kick from Huolong struck like artillery shells, shattering nearby vines into fragments and splattering viscous fluid everywhere. Listening to his furious accusations, he stood there somewhat stunned. "Sir, your inner monologue is a bit much. We've literally just met." At that moment, Huang Yuli warned sharply, "This cavern is about to collapse from their fighting. Everyone, get back!" Yi shouted. Deep blue, rugged skin rapidly formed over his body, glowing blue light flowing through countless cracks. Yi, He opened his mouth as the spinal plates along his back lit up one by one, unleashing atomic breath at maximum output. A torrent of blue energy blasted through the rock ceiling, pierced the lake above, and shot straight into the sky. Massive volumes of lake water poured down through the breach, forcibly opening a path to the outside world. Sister Yuli, you all go first. Don't even think about running. Huolong roared as all his weapons erupted, shattering every ghost demon vine within dozens of meters. He stomped the ground, a shockwave exploding behind him as he launched himself at Yi. He like a missile. Chuzhou drew his sword instantly, his bloodline power fully unleashed. Soul-cutting sword intent spread as every arc of sword chi froze solid. Blood flame spring clashing head-on with icy sword intent and blasting water vapor everywhere. As long as I'm here, you won't lay a finger on Yi. Heh, brat. I'm an 8th rank martial artist. Do you really think this bit of frost can hurt me? Taking advantage of the moment he spoke, he suddenly closed in. Atomic detonation punch exploded outward, blinding blue radiance illuminating the entire underground cavern. Caught completely off guard, Huolong was smashed head-on and sent flying into the rock wall. You go first. He's a high-tier martial artist. This is too much for you now. Leave him to me. Hearing that, Chuzhou assessed the situation instantly and withdrew without hesitation, refusing to become a burden. Shortly after Chuzhou left, the cavern began collapsing on a massive scale, rocks crashing down and exposing thick ghost demon vines. Facing the advancing 8th rank Huolong and the lurking vines, Yi. He showed no fear, raised his hand to his mouth, and bit down hard. By then, Huang Yuli and the others were already on the shore, watching the lake churn violently as muddy waves surged upward and continuous collapses echoed from below. Only when Chuzhou reached the shore did Huang Yuli finally let out a breath of relief. She quickly realized he hadn't followed him up, and just as she was about to ask, a deafening explosion erupted. A brilliant bolt of blue lightning tore through the lake, lighting up the entire body of water. During transformation, giants release massive energy, usually in the form of lightning. And because the ultra-colossal giant is the largest, the energy released during its transformation is the most extreme. As a result, one of the ultra-colossal giant's core strategic traits is its use as a humanoid mini-nuclear bomb. The lightning detonation from transformation alone can wipe out an entire naval port, and with Yi as the transformer, a humanoid Godzilla, the atomic energy unleashed becomes a true nuclear explosion. Huolong was instantly electrocuted and charred by the transformation blast, while enormous volumes of lake water were hurled skyward and steam billowed violently. Through the mist, Chuzhou and the others vaguely glimpsed an incomparably massive silhouette flash past, only to vanish in the next instant, leaving them wondering if they had imagined it. While the group remained on high alert, Yi climbed out of the river. After changing clothes, Chuzhou curiously asked about the explosion earlier, and he casually made something up, saying the mysterious martial artist had detonated a plasma bomb and perished together with the ghost demon vine. As for the giant-like figure seen in the smoke, Yi flatly denied it, claiming it was just an illusion caused by the explosion. Once he had fooled them, Yi finally let out a long breath. The monster template could not be exposed. He had gone a bit too far this time, reducing that martial artist to ashes, leaving nothing to loot. Though at least he had secured the ghost demon vine's core. Having narrowly escaped death, Huang Yuli and the other two were visibly exhausted and decided to leave the secret realm. Yi, we'll be heading out first. We're really sorry. Not only did you make this trip for nothing, but you even had to save us. We'll compensate you once you leave the secret realm. Yi grinned and told them not to worry about it. Let's just call this me repaying the favor you once did for me. If you compensate me, I'd be owing you again. Huang Yuli laughed heartily, dropped the matter, waved goodbye, and left. After that, Yi continued exploring the secret realm together with Chuzhou. With the powerful perception of the life magnetic field, their gains were substantial. By the third day, feeling they had harvested enough, the two exited the secret realm together. He then headed straight to the secret realm appraisal center. He prepared to have all his gains appraised, and according to regulations, submit 1/10 as tax. When the staff saw the mountain-like pile of items, they were completely stunned. Good lord, sack after sack. Were you moving cargo in there? After finishing the magic core appraisal, Yi went to the spirit herb appraisal section. At this point, white and green grade magic cores no longer provided him any meaningful improvement and could all be converted into cash. The real prizes were the 5 blue grade 3rd tier magic cores obtained during the Beast Tide defense, along with the green core etched with golden patterns dropped by the 2nd tier king species ghost demon vine. After selling everything, over 20 million Sha Nation credits were deposited directly into his bank account. Looking at the long string of zeros, Yi no longer felt the excitement he once had. Compared to money, these numbers were not nearly as valuable as increasing template compatibility by 10%. In this world, Personal combat power was the real currency, and figuring out how to spend the money became the real problem. Commonly circulating gene reagents on the market, like white and green magic cores, provided very limited boosts to his two templates. Thinking this over, Yi couldn't help but sigh. The template's appetites had grown so picky that they were more high maintenance than the host himself. Higher grade gene reagents were strictly limited resources, and with his current status, he didn't even qualify to purchase them. But aside from templates, there was still another path to greater strength: martial cultivation. In the college entrance exam, Yi was able to overpower Liu Qingzhu and the others purely through the overwhelming raw stats of the Godzilla template. But when it came to martial techniques, he couldn't even begin to compare to true martial prodigies. What he needed now was access to truly domineering high-level martial techniques. And among everyone he knew, the person with the widest connections and the ability to make it happen was only one: the principal of First High School. "Old man, I'm here to cash in some gold." Not long after he arrived at the principal's office. The principal personally brewed him a cup of tea. With his seasoned experience, the principal instantly saw that Yi hid something to ask for and calmly brought out an expensive bottle of liquor. Inside the bottle was a rare ginseng spirit herb, said to be irresistible to any middle-aged man, combining blood activation, vitality enhancement, and health preservation. After a brief exchange of pleasantries, he got straight to the point. "Principal, I want to learn some truly powerful martial techniques. Do you have any connections?" "You're already admitted to Imperial Capital University with certainty. Why not wait until you enroll and learn martial techniques there? You're being a bit too impatient." "Principal, I really want to improve." After some thought, the principal nodded. "All right, I can help make an introduction. You're a special talent after all. Education should be tailored, not rigidly bound by rules." He immediately followed up with praise. "You're absolutely right. Rules are rigid, but people are flexible. Educators like you are truly a blessing to the entire education system." The principal waved it off modestly, fully aware that Yi's future achievements would far surpass his own. More often than not, how others treat you depends on your weight in their eyes. Without that weight, no amount of flattery matters, and soon enough, noon of the next day arrived. The principal called right on time. "Hey, everything's been arranged. You can go now." After thanking him, Yi asked which martial family it was, only for his expression to turn instantly dramatic. The Liu family of An City, willing to teach their clan's secret arts. Not long after, on the road to the Liu residence, Liu Qingji leaned forward on a black modified motorcycle worth 2 million credits. Its supercar-level engine roaring loudly down the street. Behind him, a blonde girl clung tightly to his waist, her hair whipped backward by the wind as she enjoyed the thrill. "Jay, you're amazing." Praised by a beauty, Liu Qingji's arrogance swelled, and just as he was about to brag, a glaring little yellow bicycle appeared beside him. "Bro, don't lose focus at high speed. Unsafe driving leaves your family in tears." Liu Qingji felt utterly humiliated. "Are you insane? You scared the hell out of me. Riding a crappy shared bike and daring to race me?" With that, he twisted the throttle to the limit, the steel beast beneath him roaring furiously as he instantly left Yi far behind. "What kind of status do you think you have to ride alongside me?" Watching the bicycle fade from his rearview mirror, Liu Qingji felt immense satisfaction. But at that moment, a far more terrifying roar erupted from behind, completely drowning out his own engine's noise. In the mirror, a streak of blue light closed in rapidly. It was Yi. He on a bicycle, activating nuclear radiance battle mode only in his legs, blue-red rocket-like flames propelling him as if he were flying low through the air. "Later, bro." He tossed out a grin, then lifted straight off the ground and vanished from Liu Qingji's sight. Liu Qingji and the blonde girl behind him were left completely stunned. Are bicycles really this fast now? That's almost airplane speed. Half an hour later, he finally arrived at the Liu family estate. As expected of a martial arts clan, the residence was magnificent, the entire estate resembling a fortress. At the same time, several powerful presences appeared within Yi's life magnetic field. At the estate gate, a slender figure in a white dress stepped forward. It was Liu Qingzhu. She looked slightly nervous as she greeted him. "You're here." "Me. Mother asked me to come receive you. Let's go see her." He nodded and followed behind her, stepping across an expensive carpet into a hall that was both elegant and imposing. "Mom, he has arrived," Liu Qingzhu announced. The crisp sound of high heels tapping the floor followed immediately. A dignified, mature woman with refined charm descended the steps, and he looked up at her. He realized that Liu Qingzhu's mother's beauty had not faded with time, but instead deepened like aged wine, causing him to unconsciously hold his breath and think, "Minister, I finally understand." Not long before this, after the exam ended, Liu Qingju had returned home. She had expected a harsh scolding from her strict mother and had prepared herself for punishment. Instead, her mother simply called her into the study and calmly sat down to drink tea with her. "Qingju, don't be nervous. I watched your battle with that boy named Yi He. You did very well. Yi He's strength would make him a dark horse even in the imperial capital's exams. You don't need to blame yourself. In this generation of the Liu family, only you can shoulder the responsibility. Your younger brother lacks the talent to inherit the family, but you are still a woman, and such a beautiful one." Qinlan gently lifted Liu Qingzu's chin, her tone measured. "Your father passed away early, and now the Liu family has no grandmaster to support it. Our influence has been forced to shrink to a small city like in city, and if a major clan proposes a political marriage, we have no power to refuse. That would mean the Liu family being swallowed whole, a century of legacy handed over, and Yi. He is an excellent choice. Outstanding talent, simple background, boundless future, and from my observation, not a schemer. I want you two together. What do you think?" Qinlan looked straight into Liu Qingzu's eyes. "You don't need to answer right now. Spend some time with Yi He first." She then walked down the steps and said to Yi He, "Welcome to the Liu family." Suppressing the remnants of his instinctive awe toward martial power, Yi He bowed politely. "Hello, Auntie. This is a small token for you." Qinlan didn't even glance at the gift. Instead, she looked at Yi He and said, "The principal of City Number 1 told me you want to learn some advanced martial techniques. Let Qingju take you." He was genuinely surprised by how straightforward and generous she was. "Qingju will bring you to the Liu family's martial repository. Since techniques there cannot be taken out, you'll have only 1 day to study inside. Deep within the repository are 3 Xuanhuang grade techniques. Whether you can learn them depends entirely on your own ability." Hearing that even Xuanhuang techniques were accessible, Yi He inhaled sharply. Then Yi He thanks the Liu family for this. He thanked the Liu family as a whole, not Qinlan personally. An important distinction that amounted to a promise. If the Liu family ever needed him, he would repay it. Qinlan was clearly pleased with this answer and found Yi He more likable the longer she looked at him. Liu Qingzu then led Yi He toward the martial repository, and during their time alone, Yi He noticed she seemed noticeably more shy. "Classmate Qingzu, why does it feel like you keep avoiding my gaze?" Yi He suddenly stepped closer, meeting her startled, deer-like eyes. Liu Qingzu had never been this close to a boy before. She could even feel Yi's warm breath on her cheek, making her flustered as she hurriedly stepped back half a pace. That adorable reaction bore no trace of her former aloof elegance. "No, I'm not. Why are you standing so close?" she blurted out. They soon arrived at an underground stone chamber. He ran his hand along the wall, feeling its ancient, heavy, and rough texture. Clearly no ordinary material. Liu Qingzu explained. "This is force dispersion stone, a special material excavated from extreme environments. It can neutralize attacks from Xuanwu Master, level fighters without breaking. Can I punch it once?" Liu Qingzu hadn't expected such a question after her explanation. Normally, people would marvel at the stone's properties first. After a brief pause, she nodded. "Go ahead." He clenched his fist, atomic energy surging violently through every cell. Brilliant blue light enveloped his knuckles as his punch tore through the air and slammed into the wall. The violent shockwave blew Liu Qingzu's white dress aside, yet the blue energy didn't explode. It was completely absorbed by the stone, spreading outward like ripples on water. The wall remained completely intact, and he clearly felt that his overwhelmingly powerful punch had sunk into the stone like striking the deep sea, with over 90% of its force being absorbed. "Come on, I'll take you inside to choose a martial technique." Seeing Yi at a rare disadvantage, Liu Qingzu couldn't help curling her lips slightly as she walked ahead with light steps. The techniques, movement arts, defenses, body refinement, and sword arts are all categorized here. Just use this identity card to unlock whichever section you want. She said this while handing him a black and gold card. Xuanhuang techniques are in the small stone chamber at the very back. You can enter by swiping the card as well, but there's no way you'll truly comprehend a Xuanhuang technique in a single day. You'll grasp, at most, a bit of the surface. Honestly, I'm not sure my mother granting you access to Xuanhuang techniques is a good thing. I could help you pick some techniques just below Xuanhuang grade that suit you better. He teased her with a grin. Are you worried about me? If I'm learning the strongest Xuanhuang techniques. If it's right in front of me and I don't even dare try, I might as well go home. Seeing how determined he was, Liu Qingzu said nothing more and directly opened the black stone door of the chamber. Inside were 3 safes, each labeled with a name. 2 of the techniques were Floating Splendor, Shadow, and Primordial Jade Finger, both of which Liu Qingzu had mastered. The 3rd Xuanhuang technique was called Flesh, Seeking the Demonic, something Yi had never seen her use. Liu Qingzu explained, Xuanhuang techniques aren't learned by reading with your eyes, but by sensing the martial fortune the creator left within them. If you can't sense it, or if your attributes conflict with that fortune, cultivation can't even begin. Simply put, Xuanhuang techniques are alive. It's not the martial artist choosing the technique, but the technique choosing the martial artist. Yi. He nodded, and directly chose the one that sounded brutally straightforward. Flesh, seeking the demonic. Liu Qingzhu immediately opened the safe. Inside stood a bronze statue radiating ferocious malice. Within the gaps of its bulging muscles were countless wailing, crying evil spirits. This fierce, demon-suppressing statue displayed its murderous aura to the fullest. The moment it appeared, Yi He felt as if he could truly hear the anguished cries of evil spirits. Staring at the statue, Yi He asked in confusion, "Aren't Xuanhuang techniques supposed to be books?" Liu Qingzhu explained, "Xuanhuang techniques don't have to be books. They can be statues, paintings, or even artifacts. Anything can serve as a vessel for martial fortune. That's what makes grandmasters extraordinary. Only grandmasters can condense martial fortune and attach it to objects, passing their legacy to later generations. From here on, it's up to you. If there's fate, you'll naturally sense the martial fortune." With that, she turned and left the chamber. Yi. He circled the imposing statue a few times. He had no idea how one was supposed to sense fate. If fate alone was enough, then he might as well just take a nap. Without another word, Yi He lay down and went to sleep on the spot, leaving Liu Qingzhu, watching through the monitors, utterly speechless. When Yi He opened his eyes again, he found himself inside a ruined temple, draped in spiderwebs and thick dust. Even the wrath-faced bodhisattva enshrined on the altar had one arm broken off. This was the so-called Five Aggregates resonance. Yi. He had entered the world of the Five Aggregates, unable to sense any weapons, and even the Godzilla template's atomic reactions were completely sealed, as if he had reverted to an ordinary human state. Fortunately, his monster status panel still remained. Ding. The system detected that the host's consciousness had entered a special space. To prevent mental collapse, the system temporarily reinforced the host's spiritual body. As the prompt ended, a ferocious man with the build of a savage bear emerged from the bodhisattva's remaining arm. The ferocious man stared at Yi. He with eyes as wild as a wolf's. HEH.MY. Martial arts are only meant for real men. Otherwise, I'd rather let the inheritance rot in the ground. Kid, prove you're forged from iron. When thunder and rain fall together, 100 ghosts will roam the night. Guard this broken temple. Don't let the wrath-faced bodhisattva be defiled. Succeed, and I'll grudgingly pass down my art. Fail, and you'll be devoured by ghosts, your mind shattered, your martial path forever severed. A drop of icy rain slipped through the broken roof and landed on Yi He's face. Yi. He snapped back to reality. The ferocious man had vanished, and the rain signaled that the trial had begun. The storm intensified, plunging the outside world into darkness. Amid the howling wind, Yi. He sensed countless malicious gazes lurking in the shadows. He then retrieved a rusted sword from behind the bodhisattva's throne. Sword in hand, Yi. He stood alone at the temple entrance. Thunder roared as pale lightning illuminated his face. That bolt seemed like a signal, instantly throwing the darkness into turmoil. With thunder and rain intertwined, the night parade of 100 ghosts began. A shadow lunged from the darkness toward Yi He. Without hesitation, Yi, he swung his sword at the shadow's head. The moment the blade struck, the rusted sword erupted with dazzling golden light. The shadow screamed in agony before turning into ashes. Yi. He immediately realized that this kind of trial would never leave a martial artist unarmed. Hidden tools were clearly prepared. His battle intent surged. No longer defending the temple, he charged into the darkness with sword in hand. Behind him, the ferocious man reappeared, watching with utter disdain. Charging out with a sword? Those ghosts all carry my killing aura. A mere novice dares abandon the sanctuary. Pure suicide. Looks like another fool. Martial artists really are getting worse. The man sighed, about to go collect the body, when he suddenly stopped. Disbelief filled his eyes. Why couldn't the pale ghost possess this boy at all? Outside the temple, Yi He, who knew nothing about sword techniques, swung his blade wildly like a turtle, stabbing whenever a ghost got close and calling it a day. Within the spiritual world, the system panel automatically protected Yi He, placing him in an untouchable state, practically an invincible golden body. Yi. He burst into laughter as the broken sword in his hands danced wildly under his so-called turtle sword style, stabbing left and right, harvesting ghost after ghost like chopping vegetables. The sight left the ferocious man completely dumbfounded, even wondering when the trial he designed had become this easy. Seeing that the pale ghosts were utterly helpless against Yi He, The ferocious man could only step forward personally and demand in a deep voice how the boy could remain completely unaffected by his martial fortune. He merely smiled and replied calmly that there was no secret, only diligent training, standing proudly with his sword as the sinister wind howled. The once ferocious ghosts now shrank back like frightened lambs, not daring to approach him at all. At that moment, the wrath-faced bodhisattva inside the ruined temple collapsed, revealing a dried well sealed beneath it, its bottomless darkness sending chills with a single glance. The ferocious man spoke grimly that within the well lay the condensed essence of his killing aura from life, and the flesh-seeking demon technique itself, if he dared to refine it. Before he could finish, he leapt straight into the well, stunning the ferocious man before he burst into laughter, remarking that he had never seen such a willful successor. In life, the ferocious man had been a legendary hero who once conquered an S-rank secret realm, devoting both life and death to the path of flesh-seeking demon. As age wore him down, his blood and vitality declined, and the suppressed, resentful killing aura within him began to backfire, driving him into madness and causing him to slaughter those around him. To avoid committing further atrocities, he chose to end his own life, sealing all his resentful spirits and curses into the statue as its vessel. Even after a century had passed, much of the killing aura within the martial essence space had dissipated, yet it was still far beyond what an ordinary novice could endure. If he could subdue the killing aura that had defeated even this predecessor, he would inevitably surpass him on the path of flesh-seeking demon. Inside the monitoring room, Qinlan stood beside Liu Qingzhu, the two of them watching Yi as he entered the martial fortune space. Not long after he fell asleep, his body suddenly began to tremble violently, as if pierced by countless needles. Traces of blood even seeped from his pores, causing Liu Qingzhu to look anxiously at Qinlan and ask what was happening. Just moments earlier, he had still worn a smug smile in his sleep, as though experiencing something pleasant in his dream. At this moment, Yi suddenly began to convulse, blood seeping from his entire body. Yet Qinlan showed no surprise at all. She took a deep drag from her lady's cigarette and slowly exhaled, her alluring phoenix eyes obscured by the smoke, appearing unfathomable. Qinlan spoke calmly. The third Xuanhuang martial art was something your grandfather obtained by chance in his later years, and when he attempted to cultivate it, even his grandmaster level cultivation was rejected by the martial fortune within the statue. He even suffered internal injuries because of it, and from that day on, no one in the Liu family ever succeeded in cultivating this technique again. The more extraordinary the power, the more unbearable its method of acquisition. And since he chose to bear this power, Qinlan suddenly froze in shock. He had already awakened, even stretching lazily, looking as though he had just enjoyed a very comfortable nap. He opened his eyes and looked at the statue before him, now riddled with cracks, its once vivid spiritual aura completely dimmed. The craftsmanship remained exquisite, yet it had lost that vital spark, because that spark now resided within Yi himself. His mind still echoed with the final words left behind by the ferocious man. You are the most talented person I've ever seen. Perhaps you will uncover the truth of the secret realms, something we predecessors never accomplished. So I leave it to your generation. Yi clenched his hand and sensed the changes within his body, flesh like a demonic core and form like an Asura. Although his status panel showed no numerical increase, his combat power after mastering the Xuanhuang martial art was at least twice what it once was. At that moment, the stone door opened and Qinlan entered together with Liu Qingzhu, asking, Yi, did you succeed? Yi grinned, revealing his white teeth, and answered confidently that he had succeeded. Qinlan could hardly believe it, saying that even with Qingzhu's talent, it would take at least a full week of non-stop cultivation in the martial essence space to barely grasp a Xuanhuang martial art. She stared at Yi in disbelief, asking how long it had even been, whether an hour had passed, and whether he truly learned it just by sleeping once. Facing their doubtful gazes, he decided to demonstrate, circulating the martial art and gathering the strange power born from his dantian into his palm. Martial techniques were supposed to be formless, yet the power he condensed carried a faint black-red hue. That was the killing aura he had mastered within the martial fortune world, functioning much like an in-game enchantment that could be infused into weapons to greatly enhance their lethality. He shouted, mountain-blocking fist, his waist and back tightening like a fully drawn bow as his core exploded with force, and a punch wrapped in black-red killing aura slammed forward, detonating the surrounding air with a thunderous boom. The mother and daughter could even hear a shrill sound resembling the wail of vengeful spirits within the shockwave. And as a martial prodigy, Liu Qingzhu's pupils shrank sharply because she could clearly sense the terrifying purity contained in that punch. Was this really the common mountain-blocking fist? You really are Lan looked at Yi He with an indescribable gaze, realizing that she had still underestimated him. Being stared at by Lan's overly intense gaze made He feel rather uncomfortable, and he could not help thinking that her daughter was still standing right there, and that he really did not want to be labeled with some chancellor title. Student Yi He, since you have already mastered one Xuanwang martial art, would you like to try learning the other two as well? You still have one full day left. Liu Qingzu's thoughts were simple, and she did not overthink Yi He's experience at all. While Lan could only glance at her daughter helplessly after hearing this, Lan knew clearly that while she was indeed investing in Yi He and even preparing to accept him as a future son-in-law, he was still not a member of the Liu family, and she could not possibly hand over all of the family's foundation at once. Having lived a second life, Yi He naturally understood the principle of knowing when to stop, so he declined politely, saying that one Xuanhuang martial art was already more than enough for him to digest for now, and that he was also feeling tired with matters at home to attend to. Seeing how sensible Yi He was, Lan grew even more appreciative of him and mentioned that she had heard from the butler that he arrived by shared bicycle, asking whether he could drive, and suggesting that he pick a car from the garage for convenience. Hearing this, Yi He immediately recalled the biker he encountered earlier and found the idea of a motorcycle both stylish and eye-catching. So he asked whether there were any motorcycles available. Lan nodded with a smile and replied that there were, adding that his preference was just like that of her troublesome son, and decided to give Yi He the best motorcycle from her son's collection. A few minutes later, Liu Qingji returned home, still angrily complaining about that shared bicycle kid who had scared away Simba's girl and hoping he would never meet him again. Just as his anger lingered, something suddenly streaked past him with a sharp whoosh. When Liu Qingji recognized that it was Yi he was completely stunned, realizing that the shared bicycle kid was now riding his motorcycle. Time passed quickly, and after returning home that night, he took out the 5 demon cores he had obtained from the secret realm. He prepared to absorb them all at once, since the experience of swallowing demon cores whole last time had not been pleasant at all. This time, he even prepared a bit of soul seasoning to enhance the flavor of the demon cores. He picked up a demon core, dipped it in sauce, and swallowed it whole, as a scorching surge of energy instantly flooded his entire body. He then summoned the system panel. He took all the newly acquired stat points and allocated every single one of them to the Colossal Titan template. After that, he picked up the Scripture Green Demon Core, dipped it in fermented chili paste, and swallowed it as well. However, just as he was about to let the Godzilla template absorb this special core, an unexpected system notification appeared. Ding! The legendary Godzilla template is absorbing the genetic sequence of a special plant-based life form, triggering a potential mutation. Would the host like to halt template mutation? Yi hesitated briefly, as mutation usually meant a shift in attributes, which would be beneficial only if it resulted in a superior evolutionary path. If it turned into a disadvantageous attribute, however, it would amount to irreversible reverse evolution. Deciding to gamble and turn a bicycle into a motorcycle, Yi He chose not to prevent the mutation. In the next instant, the system notification sounded again. Legendary Godzilla loading plant attribute mutation route. SG isotope template unlocked. Planetary Godzilla. When the legendary Godzilla template reaches 100% completion, there is a 2% chance to advance into Planetary Godzilla, with continued absorption of high-quality plant-based genetic material increasing the success rate. Hearing this, He let out a long breath, knowing he had made the right bet. Planetary Godzilla appears similar to standard Godzilla, yet can exceed 300 meters in height and weigh over 1 million tons, earning the title of the largest Godzilla in history. Moreover, in terms of abilities, Planetary Godzilla represents a comprehensive enhancement over Legendary Godzilla. However, all of this requires the current template to first reach full completion, meaning he would need to accelerate his progression. Just as he was planning his future, a thunderous explosion suddenly echoed outside the apartment. Seeing flames erupt into the sky, He frowned, wondering if this was some kind of terrorist attack. He looked out the window and saw several special police martial artists in tactical gear sealing off the area, clearly searching for someone. At that moment, someone knocked on the apartment door, and given Yi's solitary nature, with no deliveries or visitors expected, he couldn't help but wonder who it could be. As he spoke, he turned his head slightly and asked aloud, almost casually, "Do you know who it is, miss?" In the next instant, a figure appeared outside the window, a woman clad in a nano-combat suit that clung tightly to her body, perfectly outlining her S-shaped curves. The woman chuckled softly, her gaze locking onto Yi. "You like a venomous serpent. It seems you're no ordinary martial artist. I only plan to stash something here and alter your memories afterward. Since you notice me, I'll have to make you suffer a little, so don't even think about running." And Yi, he could only shake his head helplessly, thinking that worst case, he could just buy another apartment. The female martial artist frowned, replying coldly that he was already dead. But before she finished speaking, Yi He's fist was already flying toward her. At the same time, down on the street below, several special police martial artists were locked in fierce combat with a man. Though injured under the barrage of attacks, the man wore a relaxed smile and shouted, "Yao Yamei, you must get the golden gene out. I, Zhou Yi, will draw their fire here." Laughing loudly, he challenged everyone to come at him, fully prepared to trade his life. Just as Zhou Yi was about to activate a blood-burning forbidden technique, a pitch-black figure suddenly crashed down in front of him, blasting a massive crater into the ground. Startled, Zhou Yi blurted out that Yao Yimei's nanosuit was supposed to be white, not burnt black like charcoal. He demanded to know why she had returned when he was already risking everything to cover her escape. Climbing out of the crater, Yao Yimei replied in a low voice that the item was safely hidden and it was time to retreat. She immediately tossed a large number of specialized smoke grenades onto the ground. Then she led Zhou Yi into the sewers, vanishing from the scene completely. Half an hour later, the two slipped out of a narrow alley, and judging by the distant sound of sirens, they finally confirmed they had temporarily escaped the pursuit and let out a sigh of relief. At that moment, a cold voice suddenly echoed beside them. "Miss, you still haven't explained why you broke into my home. I suppose you randomly picked a residence and just happened to choose me. Since that's the case, as a reward for trespassing, I'll gladly keep you company for a while." Zhou Yi stared at Yi, he with murderous intent, and demanded coldly, "How did you find us?" Yi, he had no intention of explaining that Yao Yimei was still tainted with his nuclear radiation, which made tracking her effortless. When it was time to fight, Yi never wasted words, and this was the perfect chance to test the power of the flesh-seeking demon body. As he spoke, he concentrated atomic-level cellular reactions into his feet, and in the next instant, a micro-explosion erupted beneath his soles, launching him forward like a missile. The air vibrated violently as he closed the distance in an instant, throwing a punch empowered by black-red baleful energy, with intense cellular and atomic reactions raging within his fist. With a thunderous crash, the punch slammed directly into Zhou Yi's crossed arms. Black-red energy lightning burst forth, shredding flesh that had been tempered countless times and exposing stark white arm bones. Overwhelming force struck Zhou Yi, making him feel as if he had been hit head-on by a speeding train, sending him flying backward. The concrete wall he collided with collapsed instantly, rubble exploding outward as dust filled the narrow alley. Watching Zhou Yi get blown away by a single punch, Yao Yimei couldn't help gasping in shock. A 6th-tier martial artist seriously injured by a boy whose weapon fluctuations were barely at apprentice level, and she blurted out, "Whose disciple are you?" He grinned and replied casually, "I study under Godzilla." Zhou Yi struggled back to his feet, blood dripping from his arms as waves of heat rose from the wounds. Under the dim streetlights, his skin gradually took on a cold, steel-like luminescence. A thick, heavy silver horn emerged from his forehead as his beast form manifested, the iron-armored rhinoceros. Zhou Yi sneered, saying that even if Ancheng hid true experts, a dignified 6th-tier martial artist could not be easily crushed by a 5th-tier brat. Seeing Zhou Yi preparing to fight to the death, he rolled his wrists and grew serious as well. Nuclear-level fusion processes began activating within his cells, and he thought that this was finally getting interesting. Just as he focused entirely on Zhou Yi, Yao Yimei activated optical invisibility through her nanosuit and attempted a sneak attack from behind. As Yao Yimei closed in, she was struck directly in the abdomen by an atomic beam fired from Yi's fingertips. Her nanosuit shattered on impact, and she was blasted backward, her fate unknown. Zhou Yi cursed under his breath, calling her useless for failing even a sneak attack. He then roared in fury and charged toward Yi. He like a runaway train. Excitement flared in Yi's eyes as he detonated a micro-explosion beneath his feet, propelling himself straight into the clash. In the next instant, their fists collided head-on, compressing the air until visible distortions rippled outward. He was startled to see that the atomic lightning empowered by baleful energy only left scorched marks on Zhou Yi's silver skin, not even breaking the flesh, as his defense had skyrocketed. Zhou Yi sneered, savoring the thrill of slaughtering a prodigy, boasting that his iron-armored rhinoceros beast form could easily withstand tank fire, and that its offensive power had risen even more. Seeing Zhou Yi press forward again, he detonated another explosion underfoot to forcefully widen the distance. Zhou Yi seized the opening without hesitation, roaring as he closed in and launched brutal close-quarters combat. At the instant Zhou Yi drew near, he suddenly slashed his own palm. In the next second, an enormous burst of blue lightning erupted violently. Caught at point-blank range, Zhou Yi was completely engulfed by the terrifying blue radiance. Amid the searing chaos, he sensed a gaze from a higher existence and looked up to see a 30-meter-tall giant silhouette hidden within the mist. Its deep blue eyes burned like ghostly flames, and humans instinctively felt awe and terror before such colossal beings. Zhou Yi fell into brief shock, wondering whether it was a monster, and if it had transformed from the boy. The giant moved, its massive hand dripping with scorching blue blood, sweeping aside the mist and slamming down toward Zhou Yi. Zhou Yi had not fully regained his senses, but the instincts forged through countless battles detected the danger, forcing him to leap aside. However, the giant's other fist had already torn through the water, crashing down with overwhelming force. Suspended midair with no leverage, Zhou Yi had no way to evade. In that moment, he felt his bones screaming, his organs collapsing, and even his soul being smashed out of his body. This was only the giant's first punch, as countless more followed like a torrential storm, completely engulfing Zhou Yi in destruction. At that moment, Yahello, barely forcing herself to stand, trembled violently at the sight. A dignified 6th-rank warrior like Zhou Yi was being beaten like a punching bag before the giant, and a single thought echoed in her mind. Why had she ever provoked such a monster? If this continued, Zhou Yi would be beaten to death, and with no path left to escape, a desperate gamble was the only option. After a brief calculation, a thin yellow line appeared in Yahello's hand. Seizing the moment when Zhou Yi was enduring the giant's barrage head-on, she leapt down from a nearby skyscraper. Twisting her body midair with the nanosuit's maneuvering system, she appeared at the giant's throat, the yellow line being a molecular wire drawn from the suit, strong enough to slice high-grade alloys. In her judgment, a giant formed through genetic manipulation, no matter how powerful, would still retain the fatal weaknesses of a human body. A flash of blood followed, but the outcome was completely beyond her expectations. The giant offered no resistance, allowing its throat to be severed. Scalding blood erupted like a fountain, pooling into a horrifying crimson reservoir. Had she succeeded, the thought barely formed before she met the giant's enormous deep blue eyes, each as large as a lantern. Those pupils carried a clear sense of mockery, and in the next second, the giant opened its mouth as blue, annihilating light gathered within its throat. The rising hum of energy filled Yahello's ears, and the last image etched into her memory was an endless blaze of radiant blue, as atomic breath engulfed her slender body with a thunderous roar. The beam pierced through an entire building, carving a dazzling blue trail across the sky. When the breath ended, the giant's massive body vented torrents of heat like an overdriven steam engine. As the heat dissipated, Yi reverted from his giant form back into his human body. He walked up to Zhou Yi, looking down in silence at the shattered figure before him. Yi, he spoke calmly. Those who choose to kill must be prepared to be killed, and that is only fair. At that moment, the distant wail of police sirens was rapidly closing in. The scale of the recent battle had been far too extreme, drawing the attention of nearby patrol units. Zhou Yi was fully aware that death was inevitable, yet a deranged smile spread across his face as he roared that even if he died, he would not survive for long. With twisted delight, he revealed that Yahello had hidden the golden gene in her room, that it now belonged to Yi, and that endless pursuit awaited him, before laughing madly and declaring he would wait in hell. Before he could say another word, he kicked Zhou Yi's head aside, ending the meaningless rant once and for all. With the police about to arrive, Yi to dispose of the bodies immediately. This time, the situation had undeniably spiraled out of control. After handling the bodies of Zhou Yi and Yahello, Yi quickly left the scene and returned home. Upon arriving, he immediately sent a message to Qinlan, asking her to use her connections to smooth things over. After all, the highly recognizable earth element technique he used against Yahello would inevitably draw police scrutiny and require a formal statement. Once the call with Qinlan ended, he located the golden gene mentioned by Zhou Yi inside the room. It was a sealed cylindrical container, bearing the insignia of Laserbird Corporation. Laserbird Corporation was a renowned titan within the biotechnology industry. It was clear that Zhou Yi and Yahello had stolen the item from Laserbird and faced relentless pursuit during their escape. From Zhou Yi's words, it was obvious they intended to pin the entire blame on Yi. Realizing the location was no longer safe, he decided to move immediately and spend the night in a hotel. 1 month after he obtained the golden gene. Deep within Anqing's only B-rank secret realm, a squad had just finished exterminating a third-tier high bloodline beast. As they prepared to extract its core, they were suddenly confronted with a horrifying sight. Countless beasts filled the horizon, trees collapsing en masse as thunderous footsteps crushed everything in their path. Atop the head of a crocodilian beast, massive enough to rival a mountain, stood a throne constructed entirely of white bones. Its base formed from a mound of countless skulls. A black ape-like beast reclined lazily upon the bone throne, one leg crossed over the other, eyes half closed as if asleep. Even while asleep, the celestial phenomenon above its head was enough to prove its nobility and overwhelming power. At the center of the vast storm clouds, a ferocious black primal elephant manifested in the sky, a phenomenon reserved exclusively for Overlord-class beasts. The squad leader abandoned the hard-earned monster core without hesitation and fled in terror with the team, urgently ordering them to notify the military that an Overlord-class beast was leading a massive beast tide, something Ainchung could never withstand without national-level grandmasters and supreme grandmasters being dispatched. High-tier beasts rarely left their territories to roam lower-ranked zones, which was precisely why the danger levels of secret realms had remained stable for so long. Yet that rule had now been completely shattered. Seated upon the throne of bones, the black ape sensed the squad's presence and slowly opened its crimson eyes, casting a cold glance in their direction. Beneath it, the Chinshan giant crocodile immediately understood its master's intent. Murderous intent, surging through the forest as the beast opened its jaws in a silent chant. Mud and stone within a 100-meter radius surged together, spiraling and compressing midair until they formed a massive 10-meter stone spike that launched forward like a missile. A violent shockwave erupted, piercing straight through an entire mountain ridge as the scouting squad was swallowed by the catastrophic strike. When the dust settled, a severed hand lay on the ground, still clutching a radio communicator. A distress signal carrying the oppressive aura of an overlord was successfully transmitted. At that moment, the black ape rose from its throne of bones. It spoke human language and issued a single, chilling command: full speed ahead. The surging beast tide responded to their overlord's voice with deafening, bloodthirsty roars. Soon after, the piercing alarm signaling an incoming beast tide echoed throughout Anchang. Citizens stood frozen in disbelief as the mayor's voice came over the broadcast, announcing that the beast tide would breach defenses and reach the city within 20 minutes. With all military forces already deployed to the front lines, he formally called upon every warrior in Anchang to provide immediate support. The broadcast fully jolted the citizens of Anchang awake, as countless people attempted to flee the city by car, high-speed rail, or even plane. The entire city descended into chaos, with armed police maintaining order while government departments operated at full capacity to stabilize public morale and urban order. Evacuation transport was currently restricted to students only, as children represented the future, and if Anchang truly fell, all of its future had to be sent away. Inside the mayor's office, Huang Chen sat with a deeply furrowed brow, dialing one call after another in an attempt to secure reinforcements and buy Anchang even a little more time. However, this time it was not only Anchang facing a massive beast tide invasion, as warnings were erupting simultaneously across multiple regions nationwide. Every region was already overwhelmed, and even Ling City and Guanshan City in the capital had seen the emergence of S-rank secret realms, forcing all Imperial warriors to be deployed to suppress their expansion. Slumping back into his chair, Huang Chen realized with chilling clarity that the entire nation had fallen into an enormous web. This beast tide was no accident, but a calculated operation. Time was gone, and the defense of Anchang had officially begun, leaving them with no one to rely on but themselves. Meanwhile, inside a home in Chuzhou, those in the middle of training suddenly heard the beast tide invasion alarm. At the same time, an official evacuation notice appeared on their phones. Anchang University preparatory students were granted priority evacuation rights. All eligible students were instructed to proceed immediately to Anchang Airport or designated high-speed rail evacuation routes. He immediately asked Chuzhou whether he intended to leave. Chuzhou shook his head and asked in return whether he also planned to stay, adding that with He's talent, leaving would be the better choice. He grinned and told him to stop overthinking it, saying that since neither of them was leaving, they would fight together. Meanwhile, inside the Liu family estate, Liu Qingzhu prepared to head out to resist the beast tide, only to be stopped by Qianlan. Qianlan calmly asked how confident Liu Qingzhu was about returning alive, pointing out that Anchang had roughly 30,000 active warriors, and even counting retired veterans and volunteer trainees, the total barely reached 50,000. Such numbers, in the face of a large-scale beast tide, were like a small sailboat before a tsunami, destined to be crushed on impact. Qianlan further emphasized that a Dominator-class beast was not something Anchang could face at present, as such monsters could only be barely held off by grandmasters, and reminded Liu Qingzhu that her life belonged not only to herself, but to the entire family. After a brief silence, Liu Qingzhu still stepped forward, stating that a warrior family unable to resist monsters had little reason to exist. The moment she finished speaking, the steward Hongyi emerged from the shadows and knocked her unconscious with a swift strike. Qianlan took a deep breath and issued an order on the spot. She instructed Hongyi to prepare for an immediate evacuation from Anchang, and as for Yihe, to simply send him a message and let him decide for himself. At the same time, within the Swan Lake secret realm where the beast tide had erupted, 60% of Anqing's military forces and over half of its high-tier warriors had already entered. This force was known as the Vanguard Unit, and they had only one mission. That mission was to gather intelligence on the Beast Tide and, if possible, probe the abilities of Lord-class or even Dominator-class beasts, then return alive with the information. A temporary military defense line had been established at the entrance of the Secret Realm, where tanks, anti-aircraft guns, Gatling guns, and large-caliber machine guns formed a massive wall of steel. Any beast that stepped out of the realm would be instantly drowned in overwhelming gunfire and artillery, while the limited size of the spatial rift severely restricted how many could pass through at once. The Beast Tide's greatest advantage, overwhelming numbers, was rendered ineffective, and as long as the rift could be held, Anqing still had a chance to withstand the disaster, with tens of thousands of warriors holding their breath as they stared at the star-colored rift beyond the steel formation. Suddenly, a warrior missing an arm and covered in blood staggered out of the Secret Realm rift. Clutched tightly in his hand was a USB drive containing all the intelligence gathered by the Vanguard Unit. Huang Qin was the first to reach the escaping warrior. He urgently demanded to know what had happened to the others. The warrior shook his head bitterly, his eyes filled with terror and hatred. He said they were all dead, that the Beast Tide had crushed everything, leaving no bodies to recover. He warned them to beware of the black-skinned figure with blood-red eyes, who had orchestrated the ambush. Otherwise, at least several thousand could have made it out alive. Before his words had even faded, a massive stone spike spun out of the Secret Realm rift. The spike pierced straight through a distant building without slowing down. More stone spikes followed, demolishing the newly constructed defenses at the rift entrance and triggering massive chain explosions from buried landmines. Seeing this, Huang Qin shouted in fury, recognizing it as a ranged assault from within the realm, and immediately ordered the tank battalion to respond. He commanded the units to fire without restraint directly at the rift, and the tanks and anti-aircraft guns in the rear opened fire at once. Towering flames instantly engulfed the entire Secret Realm rift, yet the stone spike bombardment from the other side showed no sign of stopping. Huang Qin's expression grew grim as he realized the beasts were deliberately avoiding a frontal assault and instead wearing down the defenses with ranged attacks. He seethed with rage, unable to accept that beasts were employing tactics like human armies. Another stone spike broke through the barrage of artillery, surging forward with a violent shockwave. The tank units in the rear had anticipated this and immediately repositioned to avoid impact. The moment the spike struck the ground, its outer shell suddenly split apart. A massive bat-winged rat burst out from within. It snapped off a nearby soldier's head in a single bite, and such brutal scenes unfolded across the battlefield. The stone spikes were being used as deployment pods, launching beasts through the rift directly into the rear lines. Seeing this, Huang Qin ordered missile interception of the spikes, which in turn reduced the firepower aimed at the rift itself. Inside the Secret Realm, the blood-eyed black man's crimson pupils gleamed with unmistakable cunning. He judged that humanity was reaching its limit and commanded the beast to crush everything ahead. A lord-class white-fur giant ape king, as large as a small building, charged out first. The beast horde surged after it, flooding toward the rift's exit. Its earth-shaking roar split the sky as the Ape King tanked multiple shell impacts, pounding its chest and howling. Taking advantage of the diverted firepower, countless beasts poured out and scattered in all directions. At that moment, he stood atop a high-rise rooftop, overlooking the battlefield and realizing the situation was beyond control. Gazing at the city below, he knew Anqing's fate would never be the same after today. This was the city where he had grown up, the place he had stayed the longest, and he refused to see it trampled under beastly hooves. Without further hesitation, he leapt from the rooftop with a roar, black-blue rugged skin enveloping his body as the Godzilla form activated once more, and he charged straight into the battlefield. Elsewhere on the battlefield, Luo Xuan kicked a beast square in the head, shattering its skull and forcing its eyeballs out from the sheer impact. Xiaolin's petite figure descended from above, landing atop a grotesque beast head the size of a small car. Chu Zhou walked over, holding a third-tier blue monster core glowing with faint azure light. As Academy prodigies, they could have withdrawn, yet they still chose to remain. After a brief exchange, Luo Xuan suddenly looked up at the sky. A tank was seen streaking across the air, completely out of control, as it smashed straight toward their position. The next moment, it was about to crush the three of them into pulp. Chu Zhou drew her sword in an instant, the blade ripping through the air. The falling tank was cleaved cleanly in half with a single strike. When Kai Shaolin saw the true culprit behind the thrown tank, her pupils contracted sharply. It was a 20-meter-tall white fur gorilla, one of the Lord-class beasts that first burst out of the rift, now somehow deep in the rear lines. There was no time to think, as the white fur gorilla had already raised a truck-sized fist and slammed it down. Chu Zhou's heart sank, as there was no room to dodge at such close range. Just as she prepared to fight to the death, a black-blue meteor suddenly smashed into the gorilla's head. The impact snapped its head back and sent its massive body toppling. Regaining balance, the gorilla reached out to swat the figure away, but that enormous palm was firmly pinned in place by Yi-Hee's single hand, unable to move. He stepped on the gorilla's chin, forcibly prying its jaws open with overwhelming strength. He calmly told it to open wide for oral care. In the next instant, a dazzling blue beam erupted from Yi-Hee's mouth, blasting straight into the gorilla's vulnerable mouth as black smoke and the stench of scorched flesh spread instantly. Sai Xiaolin and Luo Xuan stared in shock at the familiar blue light and quickly realized there was no need to panic. It was Yi-Hee. Chu Zhou looked at Yi-Hee's silhouette standing atop the white fur gorilla's body. An unexpected sense of reassurance rose in her heart, as if survival was guaranteed as long as he was there. He told Chu Zhou and the others to hold this position while he went to support other battlefields. After finishing off the white fur gorilla, he wasted no time and leapt dozens of meters into the air. Overlooking the battlefield, he quickly located the densest concentration of monsters through Godzilla's life-sensing ability. It was one of the defensive points closest to the secret realm rift, now on the verge of collapse under relentless assaults. The two strongest warrior-class fighters there had already fallen from exhaustion, yet none of the remaining fighters or ordinary soldiers chose to retreat. Even if it cost them their last drop of blood, they would never surrender this position to the monsters. A massive beast with a body like a mammoth charged forward while enduring concentrated tank fire. It smashed through the fortified wall, allowing waves of monsters to flood in behind it. Facing a mammoth beast that ignored artillery fire, the fighters chose the simplest and most brutal tactic. They swarmed over it like ants, willing to be crushed to pulp, just to inflict even the slightest wound. Although the battle's outcome was ultimately decided by clashes between high-tier fighters and high-tier beasts, ordinary fighters and civilians alike still possessed the resolve to fight in this cruel world, unafraid of death, hoping only to hold out until human powerhouses arrived. At that moment, vast black and crimson shadows appeared across the battlefield, disrupting the monster ranks rather than attacking humans, throwing many beasts into chaos and allowing fighters to strike them down. As the fighters wondered what those dark shadows were, a brilliant stream of blue light slammed directly into the mammoth-like monster. The mammoth beast let out its first agonized howl, and after taking Yi-Hee's breath attack head-on, its supposedly impenetrable hide melted away, leaving a charred wound deep to the bone as its massive body collapsed. All nearby monsters immediately swarmed toward Yi-Hee, but he merely grinned without fear as the nuclear light combat form fully activated, turning him into a walking radiation catastrophe, atomic streams flashing as he surged into the heart of the horde like blue lightning. Any monster that came within several dozen meters of Yi-Hee, he was ravaged by nuclear radiation, flesh peeling away and bones corroding. Even those that survived were rendered completely incapable of fighting, reduced to helpless prey. The terrifying kill efficiency of Yi-Hee's battlefield quickly drew the attention of both human fighters and high-tier monsters. Despite his weapon output registering only at the martial trainee level, Yi-Hee proved far more lethal in defensive warfare than most warrior-class elites. The high-tier monsters instantly recognized Yi-Hee as a critical threat and resolved to eliminate this human prodigy before he could grow further. A furious shout rang out among the fighters, declaring that anyone who wanted to kill Anqing's top scorer would have to step over their bodies first, because he was still just a kid and the city's hope. The high-ranked fighters exchanged glances and immediately moved to intercept the Lord-class monsters charging toward Yi-Hee. With his nuclear light combat form at full output, Yi-Hee fired an atomic blast that punched straight through the skull of a massive monster. The ground was littered with mangled corpses fused and twisted by nuclear radiation. 5 Lord-class monsters that had already broken through the rift. Upon seeing Yi-Hee help the human side regain control of the beast tide, began charging toward him with reckless abandon. Even elite fighters found it difficult to approach the rampaging Lord-class monsters head-on. At that moment, 4 towering stone walls nearly 100 meters tall erupted from the ground, completely trapping the Lord-class monsters that were closing in on Yi-Hee. Anqing's strongest combatant arrived, Mayor Huang Qin, whose cultivation had reached the Xuanwu level. Standing high in the air, he unleashed the genetic art known as the Earth Vein Divine Wall. A white-furred monster suddenly leapt with full force, attempting to escape the stone walls and attack Huang Qin. But the instant it drew close, it was obliterated into fragments by the overwhelming energy Huang Qin released. Just as Huang Qin was about to move in to eliminate the remaining Lord-class monsters, his gaze suddenly locked onto the dimensional rift. A massive crocodilian head was forcing its way out of the rift with great difficulty. Its sheer size prevented its full body from passing through. The Qin Mountain giant crocodile, a 4th-tier king-blooded Lord-class monster. A bead of cold sweat formed on Huang Qin's forehead as he clearly remembered this terrifying beast from the intel brought back by the Vanguard unit. The Qin Mountain Giant Crocodile was the mount of the 5th-tier Dominator class monster, the Bloodline Black Ape. It seemed the monkey had finally lost its patience, and Huang Qian's expression hardened as he pressed both palms against the ground, boundless martial energy surging endlessly into the earth. Solid rocks softened like flowing water as the crust ahead surged upward by hundreds of meters before crashing down like a mountain tsunami. The collapsing mass of stone surged directly toward the half-exposed head of the giant crocodile. Facing the falling mountain, the Qin Mountain Giant Crocodile's deep green vertical pupils flashed with disdain. This was the first time it had seen a human dare challenge a soil attribute king with the same power. Under its will, the core of the stone tsunami began rapidly collapsing inward, compressing into an enormous stone sphere. The sphere absorbed the surrounding collapsing rock, drastically reducing the mass and scale of the stone tsunami. What the crocodile failed to notice was Huang Qian's figure concealed within the mud and debris, already closing in as it sensed danger and attempted to form a stone armor. It was already too late, as Huang Qian threw a punch, spiraling destructive force erupting from his fist. The attack drilled straight through the crocodile's mineral eyelid, harder than diamond by several times. One massive eye was obliterated on the spot, and the beast's agonized roar of rage echoed across all of Angchang. The windows of surrounding buildings shattered instantly from the shockwaves. The pain completely drove the Qin Mountain Giant Crocodile into fury. Under its control, the ground within several hundred meters erupted as countless razor-sharp stone spikes burst upward. In the blink of an eye, an enormous forest of stone erupted from the ground. Fortunately, Huang Qian had obtained intelligence on the Qin Mountain Giant Crocodile in advance and immediately evacuated the warriors beyond a 1-kilometer radius, preventing massive casualties. If your full body had entered Ancheng, I might have feared you by 3 parts, but with only your head exposed, you are nothing more than livestock awaiting slaughter. In a very short span of time, Huang Qian unleashed several devastating martial techniques in succession. His rapidly moving fists and kicks tore through the air, igniting flames as he focused all his attacks on the crocodile's weak points. Scales shattered and blood sprayed as the Qin Mountain Giant Crocodile was quickly beaten into a mangled state. If not for the powerful regenerative ability of its magic core, it would have already been slain by Huang Qian. However, just as Huang Qian stood atop the giant crocodile, taking a brief moment to steady his breathing, a stone pillar behind him suddenly cracked open and a black-furred arm shot out, gripping him tightly. Huang Qian instantly realized it was an ambush and sensed fatal danger, desperately trying to pull away, but it was already too late. As the owner of the black-furred arm fully emerged, a blood-eyed black ape standing over 3 meters tall. The blood-eyed black ape grinned viciously as it stared down at Huang Qian, having fully tested the limits of the human side. There was no warrior here capable of standing against it. A 5th-tier dominator. Insignificant human, what are you doing to my mount? I will crush your head now and show you how powerless humans truly are before me.